What is up, everybody? Welcome to Pub Sports Radio and welcome to Stat Diggers for UFC Atlantic City. We got Erin Blanchfield going against Manon Fiorot. We have 14 fights to talk about. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to this card. We are back out of the Apex after back-to-back Apex cards. We are in front of a crowd, and I think they did a really good job with this card in terms of the matchmaking. I think we're going to get some very fun fights, especially this main card. Like, this main card's crazy. Banger after banger. Definitely looking forward to watching it and breaking it down. I am here with Uncle Weezy on a Monday. We typically go on Sunday, but Weezy was on a flight the time we're supposed to do Stat Diggers, so we are here now. It is, what time is it here? It's like 5:30 my time. It's like 10:30 Weezy's time. Weezy, what is up and how is Paris?
Oh, Paris is great, man. We just went out for a lovely dinner here. I got a croque monsieur. I had a couple of beers. We had a lovely dessert, walked around the city. It's fantastic here. I'm having a great time so far, and we just landed 6 a.m. Paris time this morning. So we're ready to rock here. I'm ready to talk about these fights, but I'm doing it from beautiful Paris, France. So I'm fired up for this card, and I'm fired to break it up here from Paris. It's going to be really fun. And yeah, I agree, man. The matchmaking here is phenomenal. I mean, how about for a first fight, you get Landwehr versus Emmers? That's a high, those guys are high level fighters. So I'm really looking forward to this card, Brady. I'm looking forward to chopping it up with you in the chat and looking forward to stacking them like flapjacks for this week.
Absolutely. Zach saying, Brady, did I listen to your solo podcast for no reason? No, I mean, Zach, I have some jokes lined up for the Dumas fight. I have some jokes lined up for the Verna Jandiroba fight. So no, there is good reason. And of course, looking forward to breaking down these fights with Weezy. So what we're going to do quickly, Weezy, is go over a recap of last week. Both me and you had a winning week, which is always good. I kept it super light. I think this was probably my lightest card of the entire year. Only had a couple bets. I had the Hollabaugh finish only, push. I mean, nothing really happened in that fight. Shout out to Trey Ogden, controlled Hollabaugh for like 14 minutes. That was crazy, but glad that pushed there. I had a half unit shot on Cody Gibson inside the distance. Thought the 2-3 was live as well. Didn't get to that, but kind of expected for Cody Gibson to push a little bit more of a pace, have a little bit more success down the stretch. Miles Johns came in on short notice, but his cardio held up incredibly for 15 minutes. So shout out to Miles Johns for that. I had, this was my biggest bet of the night was the fight doesn't go to decision for Pajelo Padilla, sweat free, minus 150 for that, by the way, 1.5 units. And then I had Padilla by submission quarter unit plus 650. And then lastly, I had Talbot round 3 or decision, plus 148. I love that spot all week. He finished Simon in round 2. That was Talbot's first fight that he finished under 1.5 rounds. I think Talbot's going to be a serious problem. I was expecting him to beat Cameron Simon, but I was not expecting him to beat the living crap out of him and do what he did to Cameron Simon. Finished him like 15 seconds into round 2. But yeah, although up about 0.9 units on the night, had another prize picks play hit. So that's 3 in a row in terms of prize picks. So that's great. And looking forward to this card. I'm going to be going a lot heavier on this card, a lot more spots sticking out, but I was not confident last week, so to come out with any type of win, I was pretty happy with. Weezy, how'd your night go?
Yeah, it wasn't bad. I wasn't absolutely thrilled with it, but you know what? Any time you're on the plus side, it's a good thing. And I was on a 3-week losing streak, Brady, so just to break out of that felt really good. But you know what I did? I bet on a guy who bites people.
Oh,
I bet 1 unit on a guy that goes out there and bites people in a cage. I mean, like, you're already in your underwear, you're already in a full combat sport where pretty much everything is legal except for like blatant groin shots, eye pokes like you're the Three Stooges, or biting somebody like you're Luis Suarez, the football player, and oh God, man. So that hurt, dude. That really hurt. I lost 1 unit on Igor de Silva at plus 160. I got the best of the line, got a little CLV trophy there. Got the best of the line when I bet on Daria Železniakova at minus 175, and she closed at like minus 250. And I think this is important to talk about, Brady. A year ago, Uncle Weezy probably would have had 1 unit on Montserrat Rendon saying, I think she's going to win a lot of minutes in the grappling here. We've seen Železniakova lose a lot of minutes. But as gamblers, you and I have both seen situations kind of go tits up quickly when the judges just don't score control time.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, the way that these judges are judging fights now, Zheleznyakova at minus 175 is worth laying the juice on because she's going to be landing the bigger shots at distance. And that's exactly what happened. And the judges ignored Montserrat Rendon's top control time and gave Zheleznyakova that fight. So even though I don't think it was a good bet, Brady, because she didn't look minus 175, she at best looked minus 110. But what I was happy about with that bet was the fact that I made the adjustment and started to realize, okay, we've got to start looking at, are the judges going to be scoring what fighter B does well? In this case, fighter B is Rendon. She gets control time, but doesn't necessarily land strikes when she gets that control time. And therefore, that was a bet that I made. So I was happy with my strategy adjustment there. It still wasn't a great bet, but it cashed. So made like 0.6 units on minus 175 there on Zheleznyakova. The props that I bet were Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week, Fernando Padilla. I had 1 unit on him inside the distance, and I had a quarter unit on him to win by submission at plus 650. So that hit. That was the big part of my day. Unfortunately, I had a parlay with Padilla's fight doesn't go to decision, but with the over 1.5 rounds in the Shabazian Dobson fight. And I was surprised that Shabazian finished AJ Dobson that quickly, but he looked great, man. The kid's still very young. And every time you give him a step down in competition, he handles it accordingly. He did that again. So big up Edmund Shabazian, training over at Extreme Couture now, and he's been there for a couple of camps. So I think we're going to see him continue to improve. And he just had a nice win there. What else did I lose on, though, Brady? I had a push. I had Mick Parkins, scorecards equals no action. That fight went to decision. And I had a quarter unit on Cameron Simon to win in round 3, and I had a half unit on Peyton Talbot to win in round 3. So obviously neither one of those hit because Talbot, my God, did he look phenomenal. And he took a really durable guy in Cameron Simon and finished him, almost finished him in the first and then polished him off in the second. So a really phenomenal performance by Peyton. Thug Rose got the job done. Carl Williams got the job done. A pretty good night overall, but, a plus side, we break that losing streak. And now I just got to figure out how to bet from Europe. I think I'm going to have to get a VPN while I'm here so that I can get my bets in as if I was in Illinois, because right now they're not even letting me on Bet Online. It's blocked here in France. So I'm in the gambling black hole here. I've got to figure out technology solutions to get me around it, Brady, because I'm excited for this card.
Yeah, I think this card's very, very solid. Looking forward to it. Severino already cut from the UFC. Yeah, Dana White cut him the night of, I think. I think it's pretty crazy. Really weird how people think that John's cardio held up. Did it not? I mean, I guess he slowed down a little bit. I just personally thought he was going to slow down a lot more. But sorry for being weird, Ray. And yes, we decided on Monday. Judges don't care about grappling anymore. Not at all. Not at all. You can lose 4 minutes getting controlled. If you land one good strike, you win the round. Yes.
And it pisses me off that that's the case, but that's the world we're living in, Brady. So we have to bet accordingly. We don't have to like it, but if the judges at least start being consistent with this, I think we can be profitable betting, because it'll be a little bit easier to stay away from fighters that do have a chance if grappling was scored.
Mo Usman, more like no Usman. I agree, dude. Simon, yeah, he tried for it. He tried for it, man. Lou, did you bet the bite prop on Severino? I think it was plus 1,000 for the bite prop. Let's see, Dixon. No spoilers. We'll talk about the OnlyFans. We'll talk about the OnlyFans. But before we get started, if you guys could please do us a favor. I know we're not going live at the normal time, but 63 of you in here. If you guys can get those likes up, subscribe here to Pub Sports Radio. I do want to shout out the chat. UFC Shell, first one in here. We got Olajuwon Dream in the building as well. We got Dixon, Cider, Lou Betcha, Bufo on the beat. We got Grateful Dude. We got Zach. We got Benino, Chicken Dinner. We got TG in the building. We got Jose, Victor De Jesus, Tone Miggins. What is up, everybody? Can't wait to break down these fights here. All right. I say we get into it, and like you alluded to, we have a very good fight to kick off the Atlantic City here. We got Nate Landwehr going against Jamall Emmers. We got Emmers, he's 34 years old, 5'10" with a 74-inch reach. We got Nate Landwehr, 35 years old, 5'9" with a 72-inch reach. Emmers 1 year younger. Emmers with a 1-inch height advantage and a 2-inch reach advantage. We got Landwehr, who is 3-2 in his last 5 fights, a knockout loss to Julian Erosa, submission win against Ludovic Klein, decision win against David Onama, submission win against Austin Lingo, then a decision loss against Dan Ige. As far as Emmers, he is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Decision win against Cachero, a submission loss to Pat Sabatini, decision win against that fraud Ashkabov by decision, decision loss to Jack Jenkins, and then a knockout win against Dennis Bazooki his last time out. So I've always said that I think, Jamall Emmers is a very, very talented fighter. I think he's extremely underrated. I think he's really good everywhere. Incredible striking, wrestling background, great offensive and defensive wrestling. I believe he's a brown belt in BJJ as well. I think there's a lot of things to like about Emmers. The one thing I don't like though, and I think it's cost him in a few fights, is his fight IQ. He's made a lot of mistakes. I'll never forget that Giga Chikadze fight because I was very high on Emmers actually against Giga, believe it or not, thinking, hey, he might go out there and wrestle, get the fight down to the mat, and he started wrestling like 7.5, 8 minutes into the fight. Like, what are you doing, Jamall Emmers? And he could have won that fight. It was a split decision. It was still a very close fight, but just terrible fight IQ. The Pat Sabatini loss. He knocks Pat Sabatini down and then goes to the ground with him and gets subbed in the first round there. And then even like the Jack Jenkins fight, I thought he won that fight, but we didn't really put a stamp on it. Ended up losing. So yeah, Jamall Emmers, I think, is so talented. I just think it's kind of the fight IQ that holds him back. So Jamall Emmers is a decent sized favorite, I believe, and laying chalk on Jamall Emmers is always scary, but I think this should be a solid fight for him. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this fight?
Yeah, my thoughts are almost identical to yours in the respect that, first of all, it's very hard to lay juice on Jamall Emmers because of the decision making in the cage. Like that fight against Giga should have been easy for him. Jamall Emmers' wrestling is so good. It's so good. He has that high-level wrestling background prior to becoming a mixed martial artist. He's a phenomenal athlete. He's huge for the division. He's long for the division. And the fact is, Brady, that even though he waited 7 minutes to wrestle, 6.5 minutes, whatever it was, against Chikadze, he actually held his own on the feet. His striking is very good. He's got a good positive 1.35 distance striking differential, above average 42% accuracy, above average 62.5% defense, above average volume, above average strikes landed per minute. When you go and you look at the wrestling, he's getting his takedowns at 41%. He's defending them at 90%, and he's winning 90% of the control time positions that his fights are in. And you look at those numbers and you say, well, wait a second. What's the record? 3-3? How do you get to 3-3 when you're winning all those minutes? And the answer is you're losing moments and you're doing dumb things that actually mute the success that you're having, because some people can't even believe that you're out there willingly striking with Chikadze, who had just lost the fight to, who was that kid that he lost to on Austin something?
Springer, right?
Austin Springer. He just lost to Austin Springer because Austin said, I'm going to wrestle. This guy's a kickboxer and I'm going to wrestle. And he just did what anybody with a fight IQ above room temperature would do. And Jamall doesn't do that sometimes. And I think Jamall does. The reason he does that, Brady, is because he's so gifted. It's because he's so talented. He's so good everywhere that I don't even think that he thinks about strategy, because the fact is he goes into these fights almost all the time where he's better than his opponent at just about every area of martial arts, So, but am I laying juice on this guy? Hell no. That's Nate Landwehr standing across from him. This is one of his toughest opponents that he's seen thus far, next to Giga. Nate's the real deal. This guy went and won 5 fights in a row in M1, where they were bringing him in to lose every single time. And when the Russians bring you in to lose, Brady, they make an art of it. They'll tell you you're fighting one fighter. They'll change to another fighter after a week of training camp. right before you get on the plane, they'll tell you that the original fighter is stepping back in. He's not hurt anymore. And then when you land, after they divert you to 3 different countries and then put you through customs 3 different times and put you on like Cessna planes, then they land you there like 10 minutes before you're going to weigh in. And then they tell you, oh, sorry, it's not any of the opponents we told you. It's going to be this guy over here now. And then you got to go beat that guy. And Nate did it 5 times in a row, man. I mean, this guy is a G. He's tough. Dude, he finished Ludovic Klein. He made Ludovic quit up there. Think about that. What has Ludovic Klein been doing lately? So, yeah, man, I mean, I kind of feel like I got to be on the Nate the Train side here because I think that Nate doesn't have to fight smart because he's very good everywhere anyway. And in this case, Emmers is not any more dangerous on the ground as he is standing in this particular matchup. So I think that they're just going to scrap. And I like Nate because he's going to be doing a lot. He's going to be able to stop the takedowns of Jamall. Most likely, Nate's got phenomenal takedown defense as well. So this is a really high level fight to start the card. I think this one probably goes to decision way more times than it doesn't. You're probably going to see a fight goes maybe even somewhere around -200 here, I think. But yeah, I think I like Nate here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm picking Emmers by decision. I think he's the better fighter, but that does not mean I'm laying -220 on Emmers, no matter who he's fighting. I mean, he could be fighting, I don't know, Herbert Burns. No, just kidding. Actually, I probably would. I would lay -220 at that, but no, you just can't trust the guy at -220. The fight goes to decision. Decision's actually only -130, which I think is very interesting because I'm with you. I think both these guys are super tough, super durable. Like Nate Landwehr, he's been knocked out, he's been dropped a lot, but he's a tough dude. And I know Emmers knocked out Dennis Bazookia in the first 60 seconds, but I think that's kind of an outlier. He's typically more of a decision guy. So I think if anything, I'm with you in terms of that fight goes at -130, the over 2.5, -140. I think I'd look more towards something like that. But Emmers is now -220. It opened up a pick'em. So I'm kind of surprised this money's coming in on Jamall Emmers at this point. Landwehr +185, pretty big dog now.
Yeah, dude, the betting markets always show Jamall Emmers a ton of respect. And they'll look past the fight IQ. And I think it's for really good reason, dude. I mean, both of these guys are great, but Jamall has got like God-given talent, God-given. You can't teach size and length, and he's got both. And he's got phenomenal explosiveness, great wrestling, great striking. So, yeah, I mean, they really respect Jamall Emmers, and they expect him to go out there and beat whoever he's across from. But a lot of times Jamall drops the ball.
Yep. Some fighters just drop the ball, and he's one of them. He's definitely one of them. Let's see here. Dixon.
Yeah.
I thought I was frozen for a second. Dixon saying the judges, yeah, they hated him in the Jenkins fight. Even in like the Chikadze fight, like you could have scored that fight for Emmers, I thought. Yeah. Emmers got so robbed against Jack Jenkins. Couldn't believe he lost, and I had money on Jenkins. I was shocked to see my bet cash. Yeah, I had the Jenkins +3.5 point spread, and I'm like, that was a terrible decision. I mean, that was horrible. I thought Emmers clearly won that. You can't change the fight IQ. No, you really can't. Emmers by decision. That's kind of where I'm leaning as well, but -220. No, thank you. Fight goes -130. I don't think that's terrible. Like the over 2.5 -140 best price. I don't think that's terrible as well.
Yeah, I think those are good looks, man. I got to find a way to make those bets, dude. I'm gonna have to give you keys to my place and have you drive to Chicago and place bets for it.
All right. Let's move on to the next fight. We have Melissa Gatto going against Victoria Dudikova. We got Gatto. She's 27 years old, 5'5" with a 69-inch reach. Dudikova, 24 years old, 5'5" with a 67-inch reach. Gatto is 3 years older, same height there, and then it's going to be Gatto with a 2-inch reach advantage. Dudikova's 5-0 in her last 5 fights. She is undefeated. She made her debut against Estela Nunez, won that fight by knockout. Injury knockout in the first round. She beat Maria Silva on the Contender Series, and then she just beat Jinyu Fry by decision her last time out. As far as Gatto, she is 3-2 in her last 5 fights. Came into the UFC, beat Victoria Leonardo by knockout. She beat Ciara Eubanks by knockout, and then losses to Tracy Cortez and Ariana Lipsky. So this is a very interesting fight. Dudikova is making her flyweight debut. in terms of a pro. You know, she has fought at flyweight as an amateur, but as a pro, she has not. She's coming up weight class here. And that's kind of concerning to me because due to COVID, you know, she's fighting these smaller fighters like a Maria Silva, like a Jinh Yu Frey, especially. Like Jinh Yu Frey, you know, should be an atom weight. And she's getting like out muscled in some of these exchanges. Like I was shocked to see Jinh Yu Frey taking down Dudakova in the second round. And not only that, taking her down and controlling her for the entire round. It's like, what's going on? You know, how are you letting this happen? And if Melissa Gatto gets on top, I mean, there's going to be some serious problems. So I think it's a very interesting fight. Dudakova did miss weight in her last fight, I think just barely by a little bit, but maybe that's why she's moving up here. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this one here?
Yeah, I like Gatto a lot here, dude. When I watched the tape on Victoria, I saw somebody that was completely and totally uncomfortable being at striking range. She forces the wrestling offensively in all of her fights alarmingly fast. So I don't think that she's comfortable striking. And then here's the problem. She's a 115er, right? Jinh Yu Frey is a small 115er, and we saw Victoria start to try to wrestle in the first minute of the first round, and she realized very quickly, this girl's too strong. I'm not going to be able to take her down. And then she got a lucky knockdown at the end of the first round. It landed clean, but like I think it was more because Jinh Yu Frey was off balance when it landed rather than the power of it. But she won that round, but man, when I watched that fight, dude, I kind of thought Jinh Yu Frey won the fight. I was not impressed with Victoria. Now she's moving up a weight class and fighting a girl in Melissa Gatto, who's a very dangerous Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. And let me ask you, Brady, the Lipski fight. I mean, I thought Melissa was winning a lot of those exchanges on the feet. I thought that was very, very close.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think at distance, it was actually Gatto that outlanded Lipski in every single round. But I think it was Lipski that maybe landed the bigger shots. But yeah, it
Yeah.
was, you can make a case that Gatto won that fight for sure.
Yeah, and not only won it, but won it with the, her striking. It was really good. Victoria never looked comfortable striking to me. I thought that she didn't look good on the feet against Jinh Yu Frey, somebody who's 2-6 in the UFC. So yeah, I mean, I like Melissa a lot here. I thought that was a underrated performance against Lipski. The Cortez fight was very close. Gatto won one of the rounds for sure. I had money on Cortez there, and I was like, going into that decision, I was like, oh boy, this could be a little bit choppy here. I think Tracy won, but I'm not positive. So two solid performances against solid flyweight opponents here. And now she's getting an inexperienced strawweight who just missed weight at last time. And maybe this is her being punished by being pushed up to 125. I don't know, man. I think that this is a great spot here from Melissa Gatto to make this look pretty easy.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like on the feet, it's going to be Gatto probably landing the heavier strikes. And then in terms of the ground game, like whether on top or bottom, like Gatto's going to have the BJJ advantage. So I'm with you. I like Gatto as well. And the line opened up actually plus 185. It opened up for Gatto. She opened up as a pretty big dog. She's now minus 150. And Dudakova opened up minus 220. She's currently plus 130. I agree with the line flip. I think Gatto should be favored. I like this matchup for any props sticking out. Looks like the fight goes is minus 180. The fight doesn't go is plus 150. I think if there's a finish, it is going to be coming from the Gatto side, not the Dudakova side.
I would definitely agree with that. Gatto's very tough. Under 2.5 plus 160. I would much rather bet Gatto inside the distance than a plus 160 under 2.5. And that's where I had it just before I took off from Chicago. So I don't know if that line has moved. Is it still under 160 for under 2.5?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I would much, because I don't think Dudakova's finishing her. I mean, I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, I think for some reason I bet Dudakova to finish Jinh Yu Frey, and I think I broke my TV by the end of that fight. Like once Jinh Yu Frey took her down, I was like, "You got to be kidding me, man!" I mean, how is Jinh Yu Frey taking you down and dominating you on the mat? Like if Jinh Yu Frey's doing that, well, like what is Melissa Gatto going to do? And the answer to that is probably very bad things.
Agreed, dude. I like Gatto a lot here.
Poochie lips. I don't know what kind of name that is, but like in Gatto. Dudakova by decision. If she's winning, I think it probably will be some type of decision. Bufo liking it there. Billy needs to be in this with you, fellow. Billy Quarantillo? I don't know what Billy you're talking about. Dudakova has Carl Williams type. Yeah, Carl Williams has probably the worst finish rate in heavyweight history. I think his finish rate's like 20%, if that, at this point. So yeah, Carl Williams, terrible finisher. Great fighter, though. Carl Williams is a great fighter, terrible finisher. All right, Weez, let's keep moving on. We have probably the fight I'm least looking forward to on this card. We got Dennis Buzukja going against Connor Matthews. We got Buzukja, 26 years old, 5'9" with a 70-inch reach. Matthews, 31 years old, 5'8" with a 71-inch reach. Buzukja, 5 years younger, 1-inch height advantage and a 1-inch reach disadvantage. Buzukja is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. He had a decision loss against Sean Woodson on short notice and then got knocked out by Jamall Emmers in the first 60 seconds. As far as Connor Matthews, he is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Lost to Francis Marshall in one of the worst beatdowns, I think, in Dana White's Contender Series history. A couple fights ago, lost it by decision, and then he beat Jair Farias on decision, on Contender Series by decision as well. Both these guys have fought on the Contender Series a combined 2 times, I believe. So this was one of the first fights I looked into, Easy, because I saw that Buzukja was a favorite, and I was like, holy crap, Buzukja is a favorite against somebody in the UFC. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to look into Connor Matthews. I was like, Connor, show me something here. And I don't know, dude. Like, I'm not sure what to think of Connor Matthews, because anytime he's fighting somebody not named Jay Ellis and some of these other guys, I mean, he's looked rough. That Francis Marshall fight obviously was a horrible look. And then even that Farias fight, I thought he looked a little rough in that fight for the most part, but was able to kind of win it just based off, having a little bit better cardio than that Farias guy. I don't know. I want nothing to do with this fight. Like, this is my 1-800 Gambler fight of the week. I feel like I kind of lean towards the dogs because I feel like neither of these guys should be favored. So I guess the pick for me is Connor Matthews, just by having a little bit more dog in him, maybe doing a little bit more, but I will not be touching this fight with a 10-foot pole. Weezy, curious to hear if you have any strong takes on this fight, because this is one I'm kind of struggling with, because I just don't think either guy's that great.
Yeah, I need a metaphor that's going to indicate that you not wanting to touch it with a 10-foot pole is, you're not even close to how much that I don't want to touch it. I don't want to touch it with like a 50-foot pole.
Oh gosh.
This is terrible, dude. I mean, and oftentimes when we start a phrase with all due respect, we're about to say something extremely disrespectful. And with all due respect, I think Dennis Buzukja is terrible. With all due respect, obviously he trains at a great camp. He's in the room with really great mixed martial artists. But oftentimes, Brady, you have to look at the wins. Who is he beaten? Because we overrate fighters in losses all the time. They'll get 7 shades of shit beaten out of them. We'll be like, man, was he tough? I'm going to remember that, or he overperformed maybe a little bit against Bagdasarian and made it the full 3 rounds. And people are like, man, this Buzukja guy is tough, but he's just coming off getting finished by somebody who finishes nobody in Jamall Emmers. I believe that was Jamall Emmers' first finish in the UFC. So, I don't know what Buzukja is good at either. What is he good at? Is it the BJJ? Is he winning minutes with wrestling? Is he knocking people like senseless that have a pulse? I mean, we can knock out guys that are 4-8, but is he beating anybody that's even mid-level regional scene guys? And the answer to that, unfortunately, is no. And then Connor Matthews, from what I've seen, man, I mean, how can dude, this might be a draw.
Yeah.
I don't think either one of these guys is good enough to win in the UFC. And I think that whoever's winning this fight in the 3rd round will find a way to fuck it up by poking somebody in the eye, kicking them in the sack 3 times. They get 2 points taken, and it winds up being 27-27. Draw. This is a draw fight. If there's ever a draw fight, this is it.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I was thinking the same thing of what is Dennis Buzukja good at? And then you can kind of say the same thing for Connor Matthews. Like, what is he good at? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. But I went with Matthews just based off the fact that he's plus money, but I doubt I bet him. Dennis Buzukja, -130. Connor Matthews, +110. Bazooki actually opened at minus 180, and Matthews opened at plus 155. So early money came in on Matthews, rightfully so. I think this is, at the very least, it's a close fight. The fight goes the distance, minus 130. The fight doesn't go the distance, plus 100. The over is minus 160 at this point. I would lean over, but I just don't want to put my money anywhere near this fight.
Yeah, I was surprised Bazooki got finished by Emmers last time out, because Bazooki, the one thing that he has shown is the guy's durable. He's a gamer,
Right.
you know. He does come to fight. He's exciting to watch and stuff like that. But yeah, that was very shocking, him being finished like that and so quickly, because Emmers is not a guy who has shown power in the past. So that worries me a little bit. You know, if we can't count on the durability of Bazookia anymore, I don't know why we're betting on him here. So it should be a fun fight. I'll definitely be watching it, enjoying the violence, because I think that these guys are going to put on a show. Bazooki is definitely a New York guy. I don't know if Matthews is, but I got a feeling he is as well. I think these are two hometown guys, if I'm not mistaken, going at it. But I'd have to check on Matthews. But I definitely
Matthews
know.
is trains with like Joe Lozon and
Yep. So that's Massachusetts, I think. So he's a Northeast guy as well. So that's cool. So it's two local kids going at it. Should be a fun fight, but my money will be nowhere near it.
yeah, I think really any Connor Matthews fight's going to be fun, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. Let's see here. Yeah, the Bazooka fight was short notice for Sean Woodson. That is true. Draw plus 8,000 ends in I think the split's probably live as well, but I'm guessing they're going to be onto it. Bazooki is so bad, he's going to make Connor look like Jake Matthews. I don't know. New England Cartel.
Yeah, I think that's
Matthews.
Connor Matthews, yes, is a New England Cartel guy.
All right. Yeah, I think we should certainly move on to the next fight. We have a fight that I laughed. I laughed when I saw that this fight was happening, because I just wasn't expecting Herbert Burns to show back up after what happened last time. Anyway, we got Julio Arce going against Herbert Burns. We got Arce, 34 years old, 5'7" with a 70-inch reach. Burns, 36 years old, 5'9" with a 73-inch reach. Arce is 2 years younger. He's going to be at a 2-inch height disadvantage and a 3-inch reach disadvantage. Arce is 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Decision loss against Hakeem Dawodu, a knockout win against Andre Yule, knockout loss to Song Yadong, decision win against Daniel Santos, and then a decision loss to Montel Jackson. As far as Herbert Burns, 3-2 in his last 5 fights. He made his debut against Nate Landwehr, won that fight by first round knockout. He got a submission win against Derek Minner on the Contender Series, submitted Evan Dunham, and then lost to Daniel Pineda, second round knockout, and then Bill Algeo, second round knockout. So, yeah, I mean, that last fight with Burns was just a terrible look. And that was a while ago at this point. That was 1 year and 8 months ago. He's now 36 years old. And that was, I think he got hurt in that fight or something, but it was a terrible look. At the end of the first round, like, the fight should have been stopped, because at the end of the first round, Burns literally did not get up, but somehow they let him into the second round, which was a terrible idea. And then he got finished in the second round there. And that's kind of what I worry about with Burns. I think, he has a ton of skill, at least in the first 5 minutes. He has a ton of skill. He's a very good grappler. I was watching one of the fights. I forget which commentator said it, but they said that Gilbert actually said that Burns is the better grappler. I'm like, what? That's crazy. But no, he's a very good grappler. But I just worry about the heart, the conditioning. If the going gets tough, he looks for a way out. I think he has some quit in him. So, yeah, I think Arce really all has to do is just survive like an early storm. And if he does, he's probably going to break him. Like Bill Algeo broke him. Daniel Pineda broke him. So, yeah, it's got to be Arce. It's just Burns will be live early on. It's just, I think it's a tough matchup for him, because, it's not easy to get down Julio Arce. Arce has a 95% takedown defense. So, Burns round 1 could be like an interesting bet, because that's literally his win condition. He's not winning any other way outside of a round 1 submission. And then Arce, I'm going to be looking at the 2-3 props. I think they're going to be in play. If it gets there, I think they're very live. So I'm liking Arce, but he is the biggest favorite on the card. He was minus 600 at one point, but he's now minus 450. So people taking a little shot on Burns, it looks like. But yeah, I'm not sure why this fight's even happening.
Yeah, it's when you see somebody gas out like Herbert Burns is gassed out, not just once. I mean, it wasn't an isolated incident. It happens every time that this guy gets extended. He looks like he is completely out of shape. And I think he's in fine shape, Brady. Honestly, he has a tough weight cut down to 145. Maybe I think that affects him, but there are some people that are just way more comfortable with fighting than others. And those that aren't comfortable with fighting, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's not everybody's comfortable with fighting. You know, I mean, it takes a special kind of psycho to go out there in their underwear and get in a cage in front of a bunch of drunk dudes, 20,000 of them, and square off against another grown man in hand-to-hand combat. It's terrifying, right? And that's why we love this sport, is because so many of these psychos go out there, like Peyton Talbot. That dude, when he's fighting, he looks like he's waiting in line at the DMV. He looks completely unimpressed with anything that his opponent is trying to do. And if you hit him square in the face, he eats like a flapjack and keeps coming forward. And then there are other guys that when you touch them once, they just go full ballistic, and they will either try to finish them, right then and there, or they will look for a way out as fast as possible. And I think Herbert Burns is probably a guy who's in pretty good condition, but he's just not comfortable with fighting. He's not his brother. Gilbert is a lot better at mixed martial arts than Herbert is. And Herbert just doesn't look comfortable out there. But those guys are very dangerous in round number 1, Brady, because they are looking to get out of there as fast as possible. And we have to respect a guy like Herbert Burns here and his ability to be able to finish fights early, because if you forget about that, you might be that bet for the 5 units to win 1 on Arce's money line could go tits up right quick, and you could look like a complete asshole. So you have to respect Burns's ability to be able to finish fights early, but I don't even really worry about the pressure of Herbert Burns here, because when you look at that Daniel Santos fight from Arce, it was just an absolute masterclass performance of lateral movement, pinpoint striking, and great conditioning, and knowing exactly how to deal with that pressure. And he still outlanded Santos, I think, by like 2-1 or something like that. It was a perfect performance. And so I think that he will be able to continue to move laterally around the outside of the cage, stop the takedown chances or takedown attempts that his opponent does throw at him, because he's got 95% takedown defense, keep the fight standing, pick him apart, and probably knocks him out in round number 2.
Yeah, could maybe see like a retirement on the stool after round 2. See something like that. Yeah,
After round 1.
After round 1,
Dude, his brother forced him to fight. Like, but Herbert was like straight out quitting there on the stool, and Gilbert was like, please, you have to go back out there.
It was crazy. It reminded me of the Liang Na fight with Song Yadong picking Liang Na up. Remind me of that. And then Gilbert, there was that picture where he was carrying Herbert out of the cage. It was a tough look, but he did get hurt in that fight for what it's worth. I think he might have hurt his knee or something. I think he's had a couple of bad injuries.
Yeah, and that's it is what it is, dude. Like I say, I think he adrenaline dumps more than he just comes in unprepared or just has a brutal wake up. I think it's just more adrenaline dumping than anything. But either way, you would be insane to think that Burns is going to find a way to win this fight in round 2 or 3, or win enough minutes to win a decision, because Arce is a phenomenal minute winner.
Yep, agreed. I'll be looking at maybe the Burns round 1 prop, and like I said, that Arce round 2, round 3. But yeah, Arce opened up minus 225. He went all the way down to minus 600, and then he's back to -1 or minus 450. And then Herbert Burns is currently sitting at plus 350. The over/under set at 1.5 rounds, and it's at a pick'em, minus 115 each way. And I think that's about right, because I could see Burns maybe getting an early finish, and then maybe Arce finishing him late round 1. But I don't know. Yeah. Any thoughts on the total? It's kind of, I think they said it perfect there at a pick'em. Could go either way.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, because Arce is not a guy that just goes out there and murderous punches a hole through your skull. He's going to pick you apart, but he'll find the big shot, especially because, if Herbert does slow down again, he's just going to be a very stationary target. It'll be very easy for a guy like Arce to land a head kick or a great straight left.
Yep. Yeah, this is probably the last fight on his contract, I'd imagine, but I'm not sure. Burns' first round submission for a sprinkle sounds like the move. I mean, I think that's how he wins. I think that's the only way he wins, is a first, and his jiu-jitsu is very good. So if he does somehow get this fight down to the mat, it's going to be live. Like, he got Bill Algeo into a ton of bad spots. It's just once the going got tough, he looked for a way out.
Dude, he knocked out Nate Landwehr with a knee too. You know, you got to be worried because he does throw heavy because he's trying to initiate those jiu-jitsu exchanges. And sometimes the best way to do that is just be a reckless striker because it'll open up some of those scrambling opportunities and easy reactive double leg takedowns. So you have to, I think you have to respect Burns' ability to get a knockout in the first as well.
Herbert Burns is going to look like Mike Milan after the first 5 minutes. Yes. Herbert Burns is the Josh Parisian of featherweight. I don't understand that comparison at all. I really don't. All right, guys. Let's keep moving on to the next fight. We got Jacob Malkoun going against Andre Petroski. We got Malkoun, 28 years old, 5'9" with a 73-inch reach. Andre Petroski, 32 years old, 6 foot with a 73-inch reach. We got Malkoun, 4 years younger. It's going to be Petroski with a 3-inch height advantage and the same reach there. Petroski, 4-1 in his last 5 fights. He got a submission win against that bum, Yazong Hu. We got a submission win against Nick Maximov. Got a decision win against Wellington Turman. Decision win against Gerald Mearshart, and then a knockout loss to Michel Pereira. As far as Jacob Malkoun, he is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Decision win against Abdulrazak Al-Hassan. Decision win against AJ Dobson. Decision loss to Brendan Allen, decision win against Nick Maximov, and then he got knocked out brutally in the first round by Cody Brundage last time out. So, yeah, I was surprised that me and you were both surprised that Petroski took that short notice fight against Michel Pereira, right? Like he was apparently he was doing some training in Thailand, but he was on vacation in Thailand. He takes the fight, which, you know, why risk it? You're on a big winning streak in the UFC. He takes the fight, gets knocked out in a minute. And now he's taking on Jacob Malkoun, like I said, who's coming off that brutal knockout loss to Cody Brundage. It's a tricky fight. You know, Malkoun's a pretty big favorite here. I was kind of surprised when I saw the line, but I think both these guys are very solid. Jacob Malkoun, his record in the UFC is not the best. I think even overall, he's 7-3. But you can make a case that he could be like 9-1 because I thought he beat Brendan Allen. I thought that was a very close fight. And the fact that it was even that competitive was super impressive for Brendan Allen. Like Brendan Allen's fighting next week and headlining a card. You know, I thought he could have won that fight. And then obviously he was on his way to beating Cody Brundage. The fight was not even close. I thought he was on his way to TKOing Brundage in the first round. Ended up not even elbowing Brundage in the back of the head. It was like a forearm, and then Brundage could not continue. So, you know, I think Malkoun he's a lot better than his record does indicate. This should be an interesting fight, Weezy, because both guys do kind of the same thing. You know, both these guys can get fights down to the mat. Both these guys are very solid grapplers. What are your thoughts about this one?
Yeah, it's going to come down to who is the better control time wrestler here. And I think that is going to be Jacob Malkoun because what we know that Petroski does well is his top control and jiu-jitsu. You know, from aggressive, dominant positions, that's where he really does his best work. But Malkoun is a guy that it's really difficult to out-wrestle this guy and to win minutes against this guy because he has phenomenal conditioning and he has very high percentage takedowns. And the fact that he was able to out-grapple Brendan Allen, you know, as impressively as he did. And I think what's most impressive about that performance, Brady, is not that Jacob dominated the whole time. We saw Brendan get a couple of reversals. Like he would get taken down. Brendan would spend about 90 seconds working for some stuff off the bottom. It wasn't working. He'd find a sweep, get on top, and land some big shots. But Jacob was always getting to that deep half guard. He was always getting to a hip, and he was standing right back up, getting his ass out of there every time. And every time that Brendan was getting on top of him, he wasn't able to stay there. So I think that I can favor Malkoun's conditioning here, and I think conditioning is a huge part of a fight like this, Brady. This is going to be a very high-paced, wrestling-based fight with a lot of scrambling, and scrambling is exhausting. But I think that Jacob is going to bring a pace that Andre is not going to be able to keep up with, and I think he's going to win the minutes of this fight on his way to a decision. But Andre Petroski is a guy that was, I believe, plus 275 against another great control time wrestler in Nick Maximov, and he put him in a Darce choke and finished him up. So I think an Andre Petroski finish only prop, great look this week. I can't even look at Bet Online. Did they open a prop on that?
Yeah, they did, and I was actually looking at it as well. Last time I checked, it was plus 140. But I'll double check what's that now.
Petrosky?
Yeah, the finish only. It was plus 140. It is now plus 120.
Ah, I love that. I love that bet. I think that's a great spot. I mean, you saw when Brundage knocked out Malkoun. I mean, the High Owl said it in the chat. I mean, like he was twitching on the ground. That was a brutal finish. So, you know, I mean, if Brundage is knocking you out that bad, first round knockout, I don't know, man. I think that we could see another Darce choke type of submission from Petrosky. Petrosky's got much better jiu-jitsu, in my opinion, in terms of just being able to finish, being a slick finisher with the submissions, while Malkoun is more of a guy that uses his jiu-jitsu to win minutes and land ground and pound, which he's excellent at doing. So I think Malkoun decision would be my pick, but I think a great bet is a plus money finish only prop on Andre Petrosky.
Yep. I was looking at it at that same spot. The only thing that would worry me is I do think Petrosky slows down and nobody's really been able to make him pay. Like Zhang Hu, Michael Gilmore, like Wellington Turman, even Gerald Mearshart. So maybe Maximov can get a late finish, but yeah, I think at plus money that's solid as well.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Benino likes it there, and yeah, I can't believe people in the chat are talking about how Brundage just knocked out Malkoun. It was crazy.
I love saying that. And that's why we can do that because of the degenerate. You know, we're the degenerate show, so we can just be like, yeah, you know, we can say shit like that, and people will know we're joking.
I hope so. I mean, I hope so. Sometimes people think we're being serious about.
Yeah,
Malkoun might finish him though. Like I said, maybe a late finish, like a round 3, but he's not much of a finisher. Like Malkoun is really not looking to finish anybody. So,
agreed.
all right, let's keep moving on to the next fight. We have I almost skipped one. Almost skipped our girl Verna. We got Verna Jandiroba going against Luque Godinez. We got Verna. She's 35 years old, 5'3" with a 64-inch reach. Luque Godinez, 30 years old, 5'2" with a 61-inch reach. We got Luque, 5 years younger. It's gonna be Verna, who's gonna have a 1-inch height advantage, a 3-inch reach advantage, and she's also going to be the more handsome fighter in the matchup.
Yes.
We got Verna Jandiroba. She is 3-2 in her last 5 fights. A decision loss to Mackenzie Dern, a knockout win against Kanako Murata, a decision loss to Amanda Hebos, a decision win against Angela Hill and Marina Rodriguez. As far as Luque Godinez, 4-1 in her last 5 fights. Decision loss to Angela Hill, decision win against Cynthia Calvillo, decision win against Emily Ducote, a submission win against Elise Reed, and then a decision win against Tabitha Ricci her last time out. So this is kind of a step up in competition against, Verna. I was really impressed with Verna's win in her last fight against Marina Rodriguez. I picked her to win the fight, but I was not expecting her to pretty much dominate Marina Rodriguez in all 3 rounds. I thought that was super impressive there. And it's a very interesting matchup because, typically with Luque, I'm always yelling at her to go out there and wrestle. This is a matchup where I would not like her to wrestle because going to the ground with Verna Jandiroba is definitely not a good idea. Verna's grappling is no joke on the mat. She's finished the majority of her wins by submission. Although I think Luque is a good grappler in her own right, I think there's a big levels difference in that grappling. And then I also think there's a big levels difference in the striking. I think Luque is the much better striker. I think Verna's the better grappler. So yeah, in a sense, we got a striker versus grappler matchup in my head, Weezy. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, Luque better not be taking her down. And we've accused Luque of having some subpar fight IQ in her own right sometimes, and like not going to the wrestling when she should. And frankly, you go see Angela Hill going out there and getting a win against Luque Godinez, and then you see Verna Jandiroba saying, "Yeah, I'm not going to strike with Angela Hill. I'm going to grapple with her, and I don't care that she has good takedown defense. I'm getting this fight to the ground, and I'm going to dominate there." And man, that was a dominant performance. The Hill fight and the Marina Rodriguez fight for Verna. She's about as good as we've seen her right now. And the losses are against top-notch competition in Carla Esparza. That was her debut. Mackenzie Dern, Amanda Hebos. These are all top-notch wrestler grapplers here. But I'm not going to compare Luque Godinez's wrestling to Carla Esparza just yet. Carla Esparza is an OG. She won the first ever strawweight belt here in the UFC, and she did it with her wrestling. And that is going to be something that's going to be taken out of Luque's game here. She's gonna have to wrestle defensively. She's gonna have to deal with some pressure from Virna here. But this is a winnable fight for Luque without question, because if she keeps this fight standing, she's by far the better striker, by far the cleaner striker, so much more technical, way better throwing in combinations. All Virna does is just throw that 1-2 down the pipe over and over and over again. It's very predictable. So, but the thing about fighters like Virna is they don't have to worry about whether they're predictable or not, because when you're elite somewhere, you can be predictable. It's just up to your opponent to stop it. And so that's going to be a very difficult, it's going to be a tough road to hoe for Luque, because she's going to have to stay safe on the feet for large swaths of this fight, because if she makes one mistake, that's all it takes against Virna. She could submit you from her back. She can submit you from the top. It really doesn't matter. She can find something in a scramble, a leg lock. She can find a rear naked choke. She's got great arm bars and triangle chokes as well. So, yeah, Virna is deadly on the ground. Finish only prop, Virna Jandiroba. I think that's a great play this week, because Luque's not finishing Virna. She's going to have to kind of just box from the outside, and I don't see her getting a knockout. What has she got? One career win by knockout. So, how many does she have? One career win by knockout. Yeah, Luque Godinez in 12 wins. So I don't really have to worry about her knocking out Virna here. I think maybe a finish only on Virna would be the greatest way to play this one.
Yeah, Lupe's gonna pull guard. I can see it, man. She'll pull guard. She'll roll for a leg. I don't know. But
I would have us screaming at her, man. Screaming at her.
I mean, Luque falls in the Jamall Emmers category for me. Although I do forgive her a little bit, right? I said before the Elise Reed fight, I'm like, holy crap! If you don't wrestle Elise Reed, something's seriously wrong. Something is seriously wrong, Luque. So I ended up betting Luque inside the distance. I ended up betting Luque by sub. And I think I forgive her now for the Hill fiasco, but still, I mean, it is something to definitely be mentioned. And it's funny you say the finish only, because yes, I agree, but it's minus 225, so they know, and
they're onto that one.
They are, because she's like a plus 170 dog right now, so they're definitely onto it. I think Luque by decision is interesting, but it's minus 150. So yeah, I think they're onto it here. Lupe's minus 200. Virna plus 170. The over is extremely juiced to minus 270. The under plus 210. I think I'm just going to sit back and watch this one personally. Weezy, any thoughts on any of these props? Virna by sub. I think that's her potential path here. Plus 450. Any spots you liking?
That's a bet I'm always willing to make. Virna Jandiroba by sub. I kind of feel like that's what is widely referred to as a system bet here in our community. Is that GM3 round 3 sub. You play it every time he fights. Peyton Talbot round 3. Virna Jandiroba sub, Mackenzie Dern sub. Those kind of bets. And yeah, I think Virna by sub is a great look. But I always find it really interesting when you could get an underdog like Virna Jandiroba in this spot at plus 160, but our finish only props minus 220.
Right.
That's a very interesting divergence in numbers there, because they're telling you, hey, the moment winner, the explosive fighter, the finisher here is Virna Jandiroba, and you can get her at plus 160. So I think that's one very important thing to take into consideration if you're looking at the underdog side here this week.
Yep, definitely a good point. Paul's saying Luque has good taking defense.
Yeah.
Luque decision or Virna sub. I think those are probably the two most likely outcomes there. We got Joel in the building. What is up, Joel? I can't see Virna winning, but she can't either. Oh, come on. Come on now. Let's cut it out. Who's the most handsome? Virna minus 1,000. Yeah, I mean, if we were talking who's more handsome, this line would be flipped, and I think I'd be betting Jandiroba. But we're talking fighting here. We're not talking handsome.
Yeah.
Virna finish only minus 245. Pass.
Yeah, me too. Yeah,
I agree. I love the finish only by Jandiroba till you said the line same. I was not expecting it to be like minus 240 or something. All right. Yeah. So, yeah, interesting fight there. And next, we'll move on to my personal favorite fight of the card. We got Chidi and Njokuani going against Rhys McKee. We got Chidi and Njokuani, 35 years old, 6'3" with an 80-inch reach. Rhys McKee, 28 years old, 6'2" with a 78-inch reach. Rhys McKee's 7 years younger. It's going to be Chidi with a 1-inch height advantage and a 2-inch reach advantage. Chidi is 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Knockout win against Marc-Andre Barriault. Knockout win against Dusko Todorovic. Knockout loss against Gregory Rodriguez. Decision loss against Albert Duraev. And then a knockout loss against Mikhail Olazechuk. As far as Rhys McKee, 3-2 in his last 5 fights. This is his second stint in the UFC. Lost to Chimaev and Alex Morono his first stint. And then he comes back against Angelusa after getting 3 finish wins outside the UFC, and then loses a decision to Angelusa his last time out. So we were talking about it like a week ago, I think. We were trying to figure out what weight class this is at, because some websites were putting it as a middleweight fight. Some websites are putting it as a welterweight fight. Me and you both agreed it's like, no way Chidi's coming down to welterweight at now, 35, 36 years old. But it has been confirmed that this fight somehow, some way, is going to be at welterweight, which Chidi's fought at welterweight before, but the last time he fought at welterweight was back in 2016. So that's something to absolutely mention here. That is a major concern on the Chidi side, and I think that's one of the reasons that money's pouring in on one Rhys McKee. This line has just completely came down. Like, Chidi and Njokuani was a pretty big favorite. He was minus 225 at one point, and now he's minus 139. So yeah, the weight cut's going to be something to look out for. I want to see Chidi on the scales, but what I do like here is some type of violence. How I'm seeing it is I think it's Chidi early. I think it's Rhys McKee late. Rhys McKee has the worst striking defense I've ever seen in my entire life. He's very hittable. He eats punches with his face. He's very tough, but I mean, you can only be so tough. And that scares me here against Chidi, especially if the weight cut goes good, because Chidi's going to hit him in the face very, very hard. So that's a concern. But with all that said, if Rhys McKee is able to survive the first 5 minutes, he's winning this fight. It's just he's going to have to survive one hell of a storm here, you got to think. So I think it's Chidi early. I think it's Rhys McKee late, but I think somebody's getting served in this matchup, Weezy. What are you thinking here?
Yeah, violence would probably be the way to play this one, because Rhys McKee puts a pace on his opponents. And if you have a tough weight cut, if you're not performing at 100%, and I mean, it's really hard to picture Chidi making this weight without cutting off a hand. How the hell is he going to make 171? He looks shredded at 186. He's going to cut 15 more pounds at his age. Now, he does have some fights at welterweight, Brady, in his career, but we're going back to 2016 here. That was that he was 29 years old then. It's a completely different story here now. He's too old to be making this cut. And this particular opponent, Rhys McKee, he fits into that archetype of fighter that I really like to bet on. It's a combination of attributes that are durability, conditioning, pace, and pressure. And he does all of those things. He will mix in takedowns, but he'll throw a ton of strikes. You look at those distance striking numbers for Rhys McKee at the UFC level, 17.74 distance strike attempts per fight, and he lands 9.44 at distance. So he is a guy who forces a high pace in his fights. And because his striking defense is piss poor, he better have a good chin. And he does. He does have a good chin. He can absorb big shots. So he's going to be a nightmare opponent for somebody who kind of needs an early finish here. And I think that Chidi's going to need an early finish. Even at 185, the guy was very finish dependent. I mean, what was that fight against Duraev? What was he drinking? Cough syrup? He didn't do shit for 15 minutes. That was god awful. That fight was terrible. And he didn't do shit for 15 minutes. So I'm supposed to believe that this guy's going to win minutes in round 2 and round 3 against Rhys McKee, who's going to be staying in your face, who can eat what you throw, and who's going to be just drowning you in volume and forward pressure. If you can break, and Chidi is absolutely breakable, and that's if the weight cut doesn't break him, Brady. If this was at 185, completely different story, because Chidi would be able to perform at a much higher level. And I could count on that early power being enough to even finish Rhys McKee at 185, because Chidi hits different, dude. The guy's got a ton of power, and he's very precise, and he's flashy with his striking too. There's a number of different variety of weapons that he can end your night with. It's not just kicks, it's knees, it's elbows, it's straight punches down the pipe, it's overhands, it's hooks. The guy's got power with everything that he throws, but that power is not going to last if he's dying to make 171 here. So I kind of feel like we got to see him on the scale. And I think the sharp money is telling you all you need to know about whether this guy is going to be able to put together a full 15 minutes against an opponent like Rhys McKee after this weight cut at this age. I think there's a lot of red flags on the Chidi side, Brady.
Yeah, and that's why this McKee line's getting completely smashed. It's getting crushed. He was plus 190 for a while, like for a couple weeks. And then I think once people figured out that this fight was at welterweight, Weezy, the line got crushed. It's now plus 119. Yeah, I don't really love a side here. I was actually looking at, some round props, courtesy of Bet Online. Chidi round 1 is like plus 120. Plus 120.
What? And what's his money line?
Like minus 139.
I mean, that tells you all you need to know.
Crazy.
It tells you all you need to know, because Bet Online, is obviously not going to put out as juicy of a line as some of the other books are on that, Brady, but they are telling you exactly what you need to know. And that's that, boy, this guy cutting down to 170, if he doesn't get him out of there early against Rhys McKee, he's going to be in a whole heap of trouble. So, you don't have to listen to Brady telling you guys this. You don't have to listen to me. Listen to what the books that have to manage risk, on a high money level every single week on every single card. Listen to what they're telling you. They're telling you Chidi's first round or bust in this particular matchup, and I agree.
No, I agree too. I think it's Chidi round 1, McKee round 2, round 3, because McKee has a ton of second and third round finishes. Like, that's his style. He's going to take a beating early, and then he's going to push a pace, and Chidi's not going to be able to keep up if this fight gets to the second or third round. So I'll be looking at maybe some round props, not on Bet Online, but some round props on some other books that are going to put out some better numbers. And then I think like any type of violence here in this fight, I think is pretty solid. Minus 139 for Chidi over this bum. That's cray. Like I said, I think it's because it's the whole welterweight scenario type thing. And yeah, his KO is minus 120. His KO is minus 120, and he's minus 139.
Yeah, man. Yeah, they're telling you finisher bust for Chidi and early finisher bust. Listen to what the books tell you.
D1 Chidi, I don't expect that. I mean, if he wants to take down Rhys, I guess he could, but good luck doing that for 15 minutes. Chidi Brunson. Is Rhys's numbers including the Hamzat fight? I believe so, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Let's see here. Chidi round 1 is so bad. Yeah, it's very bad. Yeah, Rhys round 2, round 3 have my attention. They'll certainly have my attention. You're overrating McKee. No, I don't think he's that great, but what I'm saying is if he survives the first round, he's going to win the fight. Is he going to survive the first round? I don't know. He's going to get hit hard in the face, and we'll have to see, but I don't know. It's a weird fight. Weird fight, but an awesome fight. I love it.
Agreed. It's going to be an absolute banger, and this card is full of them, Brady. Full of them. And by the way, speaking of banger, the Pleasure Man.
Oh,
this guy gets more ass than a toilet seat, and he is gracing us with his presence once again in a rematch against the Turkish sensation, Ibo Aslan. I can't wait to break this one down.
I'm so glad he's back. I'm so glad he's back because, I thought he was going to get cut. He's on a 3-fight skid. He's looked horrible, but I guess he is back. Oh, wait, we got to talk about this fight first. The Lofgren.
Oh, damn it.
Pacheco,
okay.
Unfortunately, and then we'll get to some pleasure in the next breakdown. But yeah, this fight's not going to be pleasurable for me, I don't think. There's 2 fights on this card where I could really care less. It's the Conor Matthews fight, and then it's this one. We got Colin Lofgren going against Angel Pacheco. We got Lofgren, 50 years old.
50?
That's what you said. I'm going with it. He's 50 years old.
Oh my God! All right, I'll throw the real bay. We will not have him at my birthday. I
think he's like 28. He's 5'6" with a 68-inch reach. Pacheco's 32 years old, 5'8" with a 70-inch reach. We got Colin Lofgren, 4 years younger. It's going to be Pacheco with a 2-inch height advantage and a 2-inch reach advantage. Pacheco is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. He went on the Contender Series and lost to Danny Silva, and now they're giving him an opportunity here in the UFC against Colin Lofgren. As far as Loughran, he's 4-1 in his last 5 fights, made his debut against Taylor Lapilus, lost that fight by decision. Yeah, I want nothing to do with this fight. I mean, Loughran's a minus 350 favorite. And although I'm picking him to win, I think he has more ways to win. I mean, minus 350, I just can't possibly get there. Where I think he could have some success here is actually going to be getting some control here, taking this fight down to the mat. I've seen Pacheco held against the cage, taken down, and that's what Loughran tried to do against Taylor Lapilus quite a bit. But Taylor Lapilus has elite takedown defense, an elite get-up game, was not really able to have success. I kind of worry about like this fight at distance because Colin Loughran, I think he's the better striker. It's just Angel Pacheco's throwing like 50 strikes a minute. So I like Loughran here. Loughran probably by decision. I think he's the better fighter with more ways to win, but I think there's better spots on the card and better parlay pieces even on the card than Colin Loughran this week. I think it's gonna be a fun fight though. I'm hoping it's a fun fight. Like any Angel Pacheco fight's always fun. But maybe Loughran maybe makes it a little bit more boring, slows it down, which would probably be the best game plan here. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this fight?
Yeah, there's something really important to mention here, and that this looks to be his first fight ever at bantamweight, and that is Angel Pacheco. So he's fought at lightweight, he's fought at 150, he's fought at featherweight. This is his first time moving down to 135, and he's fighting a human fire hydrant in Keelan Loughran here, who's going to wrestle him for the full 3 rounds. And Keelan has got good takedowns. He uses his striking to set up his wrestling entries, which is very important because it allows him to be able to throw with power when he's on the feet and pressure his opponents. And that's what you want to see out of fighters like Keelan, who rely on wrestling, control time, and ground and pound in order to win minutes. So I really kind of feel like this is a great matchup for Keelan because he's going to be fighting a guy that's used to not cutting this weight, and having this guy on top of you who's built like a refrigerator, but at 135 pounds, it's going to be exhausting for him. And that Keelan can fight the exact kind of style that we've seen his opponent deal with in not a good way. Nasty Nate Williams is the guy that beat him on the regional scene prior to the Danny Silva fight on Danny White's Contender Series. And Nate Williams won with his wrestling in that fight, like Nate Williams does so often. So this is a great opportunity for Keelan to show off what he does best: taking dudes down, pounding their heads through the canvas, and avoiding what they do best, which is in this case with Pacheco, it's his striking. He's a good boxer, but even his boxing, I mean, he's obviously hittable. The guy was a punching bag against Silva. He absorbed how many significant strikes in that fight? Well over 100, I think. So it's going to be Keelan Loughran here. I think he might even get a finish with some ground and pound.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, Pacheco's super tough, but he also has no striking defense at all. So I could potentially see it. I have seen him hurt though. I've seen him dropped. But I don't think anybody's been able to get him out of there yet, huh? Like 2 losses.
Yeah, no, not yet. Neither one of these guys has ever been finished.
Yeah, I could maybe see a Loughran finish potentially. He's minus 350, which, like I said, I'm not in love with that. And then Pacheco is currently plus 285. The over/under set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 minus 105. The under 2.5 is minus 125 there. Yeah, I'll probably just sit back and watch this one, I think. But yeah, I'm picking Loughran.
I'm picking Loughran, but at minus 350, I don't want to bet him, and I don't want to like have to rely on a finish or rely on a decision bet where I'm just rooting for him not to finish him for the full 15. So it feels like a safe one to stay away from.
Right. Minus 350. Yeah, minus 350 kind of surprised me. Minus what? Yes. Minus 350. Let's see. Colin, round 2. He does have a lot of round 2 finishes. I noticed that. I think there's like a round 2 streak he had going on for a while. Round 2. Maybe the round 2, round 3 could be interesting for Loughran. I don't hate that. I don't hate it, but I don't know. We'll see. Okay, moving on to the next fight. Okay, now it is time to get pleasured, Weezy. We have Anton Turkalj going against Ibo Aslan. We got Turkalj, 27 years old, 6'4", with a it says 205. I think he meant the weight class there. I'm not sure what his reach is.
Criminy. Okay, God, what the hell happened there?
It happens. It happens.
Yeah.
Let's see. What is his reach there? I have
78.
78. Okay, 78-inch reach. We got Ibo Aslan, 27 years old, 6'3" with a 77-inch reach. We got same age there. We got Turkale 1-inch height advantage and then a 1-inch reach advantage. Ibo Aslan 4-1 in his last 5 fights. His last loss came against Anton Turkale a couple of years ago. Lost that fight by second round submission. Went on the Contender Series and it beat Paulo Renato Jr. by first round knockout, and pretty much everybody else by first round knockout. As far as Anton Turkale, he is 2-3 his last 5 fights. He had a decision win on the Contender Series against Asasao dos Santos, and then he had a submission loss to Jalton Almeida in his debut. Decision loss to Vitor Petrino, a knockout loss against Tyson Pedro his last time out. I'm a big fan of the Pleasure Man. How can you not be? Outside of Monk, who we do a show with on Wednesday, he hates the Pleasure Man. I don't see how he does, but yeah, I'm a big fan of the guy. I like his gimmick. I think he's hilarious. I will never forget when I was about to watch the Vitor Petrino fight. And then a promo comes on from Turkale, and he's like, "I'm going to pleasure the fans." And I'm like, "What? What did he just say?" I had to double take. He's going to pleasure the fan. I've never heard that. And then I'm sitting in my living room waiting to be pleasured. And then the fight comes on, and it's kind of a terrible fight, that Petrino fight. I mean, I guess it was kind of hilarious, but just kind of sloppy and went to decision. But I was expecting to be pleasured. I was not. I was kind of pleasured in his next fight where he got knocked out pretty brutally against Tyson Pedro. And maybe that happens here. Like this is kind of like the Chidi fight for me. Like I think it's Ibo round 1 or Turkale round 2, round 3, because Ibo round 1 is a complete monster. He hits very hard, has a ton of power. He has, I think, maybe all but one of his wins do come in that first round. Turkale, extremely hittable, extremely tough, but extremely hittable. So yeah, I think Aslan round 1 certainly in play. But if this fight reaches round 2, it's all Turkale. So I think there's a couple fights on this card where it's kind of like that. Round 1, Aslan's very live. Round 2, 3, Turkale is very live. But Weezy, this should be a very fun fight. I'm looking forward to it. I'm always looking forward to a Pleasure Man fight. But this could potentially be the last time we ever see him, sadly.
Yeah, I don't know. This is going to be a great one. A little bit of background on this fight. Now, these two guys have fought before in the Brave Combat Federation, and it was very clear prior to that fight happening that they hated each other. He was Ibo Aslan had the nerve to say that Turkale had a big mouth and that he talked too much. I mean, how dare him? How dare him say that? I mean, like, or Anton just tells the truth. I mean, we know what this guy does well. He fights, he crushes ass, he steals your girlfriend, and that's how he got into mixed martial arts. He had to learn how to fight because so many people were mad that he was stealing their girlfriends. It reminds me of how I had to get into mixed martial arts and judo. It reminds me of myself. I see so much of myself in that handsome young Swedish man there. But the guy can fight, and he's been durable. Look at how handsome he is. Look at that haircut too. I mean, like you could set your watch to that haircut. A lot of product in there. Clearly as a stylist with a great eye. But the thing is, they fought before. They were in each other's face while they were both being introduced. Aslan had a good first round, but never really got close to finishing him. And then Turkale kind of caught Aslan's kick at some point, pushed him backwards, and Aslan kind of lost his balance. And then Turkale just bum rushed him, got to his back, and finished him. And the reason that he was able to finish him so quickly is because Aslan is about 5 minutes of cardio. Now, don't get it twisted. He's a big, strong man. He wakes up every morning and he has a big breakfast of steroids. And then he goes to the gym, and he works out. He knocks out some tomato cans. He trains with Rakic, who's a very good fighter. I'm not calling Rakic the tomato can. And then he goes home, has an extra big dinner of steroids, and then he gets some sleep, and he can knock you out if you don't get him tired first. But Brady, I don't know, man. This guy's level of competition outside of the Turkale fight is pitiful. His last fight before he got on Dana White's Contender Series, right, where he also fights a complete tomato can, a guy that's 170 pounder that got out jabbed by Jamall Pogues for 3 rounds, and then And then he fought Aslan and got finished in the first round. He fought a guy by the name of Georgi Kubashvili. And I said, holy shit, did he fight Kubashvili? I know who this guy is. He fought another fraud in Ihor Peterier. I saw Ihor Peterier beat this guy, Georgi Kubashvili. And I remember watching the Peterier Kubashvili fight, and I was laughing the entire time because I was like, who sanctioned this guy Kubashvili getting into the cage with anybody with a pulse, against anybody with a pulse, even like a low-level regional scene fighter? So I looked at Kubashvili. If you go to the Tapology page of Ibo Aslan, and then you look at his second most recent victory over Georgi Kubashvili, you will see that Kubashvili is currently on a 12-fight losing streak, Brady. 12-fight losing streak. This bum is getting stopped by everybody. And that was the last fight that this guy chose to take before he got on Dana White's Contender Series. Now, when you're taking fights against Georgi Kubashvili, it tells me one thing, that you're scared to fight anybody with a pulse, because the last time you did, you got choked out by Anton Turkalj in the second round after you completely gassed because you were unable to finish him in the first 5 minutes. And that's what I see from Aslan. I see a guy who's never beaten anybody. I see a roided up monster who's either going to go out there and tear your head off violently in the very first round, or there's going to be nothing left in the tank for him to do anything else. And like, you just don't see much process to his game either. So I think it's Aslan round one is a very big win condition of this fight for either guy. And then from there, I think Turkalj takes over. But I worry about Turkalj's chin being gone after that Tyson Pedro fight, because he got hit clean so many times by Vitor Petrino. He had been hit so many times clean in all of his fights prior to that, even the Ibo Aslan fight back in Brave. And he always ate it. And then all of a sudden, Tyson gets him out of there in round one, and it happened fast. And it leads you to believe that maybe Anton's one of his best features, besides his rugged good looks, is his durability, Brady. And if that durability's gone, I mean, Ibo is going to knock this dude out in the first round. If that durability is something that can't be counted on going forward for Anton, I think Ibo round one is almost a lock if that's the case.
Yeah, because he needs to eat those punches. He's going to have to. He's going to have to hold up. And Ibo does hit very hard, but I'm with you. I worry about Ibo at least past the first round. So Turkalj's going to have to drag it into deep waters. If he does, I think he gets another probably second round finish, but Ibo is going to be very alive in round one. Dixon's bring it up. There are two OnlyFans fades of the week this week, and Turkalj is one of them. And I can confirm he does have an OnlyFans, and I'm looking at it now, and his bio says, "She's not yours. It's only your turn," with like a praying hands. And he has, maybe I'll just.
This is a fighter.
Gosh, dude. And he has like the weirdest picture. It's him doing like a duck face. Looks like he has makeup on. One of the weirder things. One of the weirder things I've seen. Yes. And I do want to bring this up if I can. Let's see. And shout out to, hopefully this works. I practiced it before the. Oh, it's right here.
Yeah, it was already there. Yeah.
Oh, it's already there. Okay. Shout out to Bufo on the beat. Look at that graphic. The only fade. And then I kind of, you had to zoom in. On the far left is Bruno Brazil. And then you got Marina Moroz, who, by the way, you're not an Instagram Weezy. Did you see what Marina Moroz did?
No, I did not.
She has big boobs now.
No way. Oh God. She got implants?
That's what unless it's a joke. But yes, that's what it's looking like now. Let me see if I can.
She was making more money on. This is why Dix Insider, our guy, right? Why he started the OnlyFans fade and started tracking who had OnlyFans and told people to bet against them, because if you're making more money on OnlyFans than you are as a fighter, why go to the gym and work hard when you could just show your ass on OnlyFans and make a ton of money and do it without getting your brains beaten in?
Yeah, it's crazy. And so let's see if I can pull this up. I'll pull this one up. It's a lot. That's her crying. And then you're gonna see her with one eternity later.
Japanese crying porn.
It's there it is.
How about it?
So there you go. And then back to Turkali. So yeah, the OnlyFans fade. Marina Moroz, Billy Q, obviously the latest victim of the OnlyFans fade. We have Amanda Hebos. I mean, Hebos is at OnlyFans?
Yeah, that was what Dixon told us last week, is that the fades were going to be Billy Q and Amanda Hebos, because they both have them, but I think they're free. I think they both have free OnlyFans, but he's still putting them into that OnlyFans fade bucket, and it's been working every damn time.
Joel wants me to go back to the Marina Moroz. I mean, you could check it out. It's just on our Instagram, and then also she does have an OnlyFans as well. Shout out to Marina Moroz, and then Anton Turkali, and then spoiler alert, Bill Algeo has an OnlyFans as well. So that, I thought that was hilarious. Oh, Turkali's already been dealt with, it looks like. Yeah, because he got knocked out by
Tyson Pedro.
Yeah.
Yep.
So there you go. All right. Anyway, I forget what we were talking about. Oh, we got Ibo Aslan I think he's still a favorite. Yeah, minus 125, Turkali plus 105. I think Violence here as well is a great look, but they're onto it. The fight doesn't go as minus 400. The over under set at 1.5. The under 1.5 is minus 125. The over 1.5 is minus 105. I'm sure it's not going to be great, but I'm curious to see where they put Aslan round one. Oh gosh. So Aslan's a minus 125 favorite, Weezy. Guess where they put Aslan round one?
It's Bet Online, right?
Yeah, it is.
Oh God. So maybe it might even be plus 100.
Close, plus 135.
Wow. All right. That's a little bit juicier. And yeah, I mean, it's got to be about 80% of his win condition, I would say. He could get an early second round knockout too, but it's the way that this guy fights, he's going to get you out of there early. Otherwise, there's so much muscle on his frame that it's just going to be hard for him to show any kind of conditioning. And Turkali fights are always high paced. So you better get him out of there early.
Yeah, 100%. Very, very interesting fight here. Thank you for your inspiration, Dixon. Dixon is the leader of men. Shout out to
Yes,
Dixon.
sir.
You see them new Kay Hansons. Yeah, Kay Hansen was also an OnlyFans fighter as well. There's a decent amount of them now. It seems to be a thing.
And I don't know if she's even fighting anymore. I mean, why get concussions? She's making a ton of money.
And Weezy, do you get hard? I'm sure he doesn't get Hard Rock, FanDuel, DraftKings in Paris.
Oh yeah, I mean, I maybe they do, but I don't have Hard Rock Sportsbook. That's one thing I haven't used that sportsbook. I've got like Bet Rivers, DraftKings, FanDuel, Bet Online, of course, but that's where I do the majority of my stuff.
All right. Speaking of OnlyFans, we're gonna get right into it. Bill Algeo going against Kyle Nelson. We got Bill Algeo, 34 years old, 6 foot with a 73-inch reach. Kyle Nelson, 32 years old, 5'11" with a 71-inch reach. We got Nelson 2 years younger. Algeo with a 1-inch height advantage and a 2-inch reach advantage. Algeo is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Decision win against Joe Anderson Brito. Knockout win against Herbert Burns. Decision loss against Andre Fili. Submission win against TJ Brown. And then a decision win against Alexander Hernandez. As far as Kyle Nelson, he's 2-2 in 1 draw his last 5 fights. Knockout loss against Billy Quarantillo. A decision loss against Jai Herbert. A draw against Duho Choi. A decision win against Blake Builder. And then a decision win against Fernando Padilla. So, yeah, it kind of feels like last week with Trey Ogden. I just have consistently got Kyle Nelson fights wrong, the last like 3-4 fights at this point. Kyle Nelson's a guy that has completely changed up his style from when he first entered the UFC. When he first entered the UFC, he was a killer be killed fighter with 1 round of cardio. He's either knocking out early or getting finished late. Billy Quarantillo finished him in the 3rd. Matt Sales, of all people, finished him in the 3rd by submission. Diego Ferreira finished him in the 2nd by knockout. And then he took a 2-year layoff. And then he comes back and he just changes up his style. Against Jai Herbert, he went out there and did completely nothing. Lost the fight, but it was a close fight. But yeah, did nothing in that fight. Landed only 41 strikes. Against Doo Ho Choi, it was a draw. I believe Doo Ho Choi lost a point. Kyle Nelson, once again, did nothing in the fight. And he landed only 20 strikes in that fight. Ended up being a draw. Against Blake Bilder, Kyle Nelson goes in there, and I was expecting Bilder to maybe push a pace. No, didn't happen. Kyle Nelson slowed down the fight. He wins a decision with landing only 59 significant strikes. And then against Padilla, I expected Padilla to push a pace. No, didn't happen. Kyle Nelson slows the fight down, hypnotized him into doing nothing. I had Padilla like round 2, round 3 sub as well, and lost all those bets. So I've been like burning money on these last 4 Kyle Nelson fights, Weezy. And maybe I'll burn some more money here. But yeah, this is an interesting fight because you got Bill Algeo, who always pushes the pace, but Kyle Nelson just has that way of hypnotizing guys nowadays, making fights completely unbearable to watch. And I'm hoping that's not the case here, but that is my concern. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this fight here?
Yeah, normally I would say that, the numbers kind of favor Algeo being the better minute winner here. And he throws a lot more volume, 16 and a half significant strike attempts per minute spent at distance. Very high. That's 4.44 more than the divisional average. So he's always high volume with what he lands and what he throws. He's a durable guy. Bill Algeo has never been knocked out in 25 professional fights. And he will mix in the wrestling occasionally. And when he does, he's pretty high percentage with it. But I think what's even more important about what Algeo does is, yeah, his takedown defense is bad, but he always gets back up, and he really doesn't let you do much when you get on top of him. So he's either throwing up submission attempts or sweep attempts, or he's getting back to his feet. And sometimes I think he lulls his opponents into, yeah, go ahead and take me down 3 or 4 times this round even. But when I come out in the second, I'm going to be staying in your face, throwing a ton of volume, and I'm going to start stopping those takedowns the further the fight goes. And you're going to get tired from offensively wrestling, and that's when Bill really starts to do his best work. Bill's a dangerous fighter, man. I mean, he's dangerous on the ground. He's dangerous at distance striking range. He's got an awkward, strange style. So sometimes he hits you with some stuff that you're really not expecting at all. And then Nelson has really kind of shown a great ability, like you said, Brady, to win minutes instead of moments. Instead of just looking to like punt dudes' heads into the cheap seats, he's kind of like holding people up against the cage, wearing on them a little bit, trying to land the bigger strikes at distance, but waiting to counter a lot more. And when you wait to counter, sometimes you slow down the output of your opponents because they're afraid of getting hit with that big shot. I don't think Algeo is going to be afraid of that. I think Algeo is the kind of fighter that is going to fight Kyle Nelson the way that we thought Blake Bilder would, the way that we thought Padilla would, the way that we thought Jai Herbert would, right? We thought he would be like, okay, yeah, I mean, he's got power, Kyle Nelson, but so does everybody, right? I mean, this is the UFC. These guys are the elite of the elite. You don't want to get hit by any of these guys clean. So I think Bill's going to fight a style that will allow him to be able to win the minutes here. And, but, it just depends on how much time Kyle is going to be able to hold him against the cage. But you and I both know, man, he better do something with it, right? Because Kyle's not getting his takedowns at a high percentage. Kyle's takedown accuracy is 20%. He's 7 for 34. So he's not successful at getting fights to the ground. And he does hold his opponents up against the cage a lot. But if you're not doing anything with that control time right now, Brady, it's pretty much meaningless. So I do like Bill Algeo to win this fight, and I'm going to pick him to win it by decision.
Yep, I'm probably going to lose more money betting against Kyle Nelson because I actually really like Bill Algeo. I know the OnlyFans thing definitely scares me, but Algeo is definitely one of the spots that stick out. I was thinking like round 3 decision for Algeo because if he does push a pace, I think Kyle Nelson probably can go back to his breaking ways. So yeah, round 3 decision. I'll probably add the round 2 as well, just in case he Peyton Talbots him. Yeah, minus 205 for Algeo, and then we got plus 175 for Kyle Nelson. And then somebody in the chat said that maybe Kyle Nelson is scaring him, scaring his opponents because he is a terrifying looking guy.
He is, dude. He's the monster. You
Yeah.
know, that bald head and the big, thick beard, and he does hit hard. He really does. That's why he got that nickname, the monster. So, but you know, when you wait to land that big shot, it doesn't come as often as you think it's going to come, and then you lose the minutes while you're waiting for it to land. So, he's figured out a more high percentage way to win fights, and it's working for him. I don't know if it's gonna work against an opponent like Algeo, but it's going to be an interesting stylistic matchup.
Yeah, I hope Algeo fights. Like you said, like I thought Builder was going to push a pace. I thought Doo Ho Choi was going to push a pace. I thought Padilla was going to push a pace. None of that. And then the Herbert fight was just terrible. Neither guy showed up there. But yeah, we'll see if the OnlyFans fade holds true. I'm sure we'll see Dixon back in here next week if it does hit again. I mean, that would be wild, because actually I really do like Bill Algeo here. Algeo is going to walk all over this guy. Algeo by decision, Sprinker round 3. That's what I'm looking at as well. Like the round 3 decision prop for Algeo is something I'll be looking at. If Kyle Nelson does win, we will all be
thinking of you if Kyle gets this done, man. I'm like, man, this guy's on fire with that fade right now.
100%. And Kyle Nelson keeps burning me, just like Trey Ogden. Luckily, I had the finish only for Kurt Hollaball, so I didn't lose money, but still I got it wrong. So
can I brag on the Ogden fight? Can I brag on the Ogden fight for a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
0 bets. Loved it. Go. Just enjoyed watching it because I get that guy's fights wrong all the time. And I'm really proud to say I lost 0 money on a Trey Ogden fight last week, and I had a winning week because of it.
Yeah, Trey Ogden looked like, I don't know, Hamzat Chimaev out there. I'm still shocked that I lost money betting on him against Jordan Levitt. I mean, that's still going to haunt me for the rest of my life. And then I lost money on him betting on Daniel Zellhuber. That is going to haunt me for the rest of my life. Trey Ogden just going to haunt me for the rest of my life, I think. I don't know what it is, but
it's not going to haunt me because I'm going to be avoiding his fights, because like I know the next time he's going to come out there, he's going to be minus 300, and then he's going to go out there and lose a striking battle in the rematch to Jordan Levitt.
You know what they should make? They should make Trey Ogden versus Thomas Gifford 3.
Oh, it would be a great rematch. That needs to happen.
It does. We're all waiting for that. But what I'm also waiting for is this matchup, Weezy. We have Nursulton Ruziboev going against Sedriques Dumas, who is I heard he's a very nice guy. He's a law-abiding citizen. He's always staying out of trouble. And you need more nice guys in the UFC. And I think SD Dumas definitely brings that to the table. It's a very good overall guy. Going against Ruziboev. We got Ruziboev. He's 30 years old, 6'5" with a 76-inch reach. Dumas, 28 years old, 6'2" with a 79-inch reach. We got Dumas. He's 2 years younger. We got Ruziboev with a 3-inch height advantage and a 3-inch reach disadvantage. Ruziboev, 5-0 in his last 5 fights, made his debut against Bruno Ferreira, won that fight by first-round knockout. And then we got SD Dumas, 4-1 in his last 5 fights, made his debut against Josh Frem, lost that fight by second-round sub, beat Cody Brundage by decision, and then beat Abu Azatar by decision. So interesting fight here. I'm still not sure what to think about Ruziboev. I have a little bit of a better feel on Dumas, and I don't think he's that great, but we'll get to that. Ruziboev is a guy with over 40 fights in his career, 41 fights, and you look through his record. He has not fought the best competition. This guy has like 20 Kimuras on his record. He has power on the feet. Obviously, we saw that. He has a submission game as well. He's training with those Renzo Gracie Philly guys for a while at this point, which I do like to see that. But still, we don't know a ton about him. We haven't seen a lot of fights with him against high-level opponents. The best guy he probably fought was Bruno Ferreira, and he knocked him out in the first round. But I think we're going to learn a little bit more about Ruziboev here. As far as Dumas, man, I had some high hopes for him coming into the UFC. I thought he looked pretty solid outside the UFC, but inside the UFC, it's been a completely different story. I mean, that Josh Fremd loss was terrible. He got hurt multiple times in the first round, got hurt multiple times in the second round, and then got insta-tapped once Josh Fremd got him down in that second. It was a bad look. That Cody Brundage fight was a terrible look. He had over 10 minutes of control time against Cody Brundage, and as we always talk about, Cody Brundage, offensive wrestling, good, defensive wrestling, and on his back, not good. He wasn't able to finish Cody Brundage, and there was this weird exchange where he was on the back of Cody Brundage for like 3 minutes and just sitting there. Is the most frustrating thing ever, especially because I had like the under in that fight. But still, not a good performance. And then he goes life and death with Abu Azaitar in a fight where, that fight could have went either way. So I think Dumas has been extremely underwhelming thus far, and he's taken on Ruziboev, who's just a complete unknown. Like, is Ruziboev the real deal? Is he not the real deal? If he is, he probably makes this look pretty easy. But Weezy, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this guy. It's kind of a weird fight, but Ruziboev is a decent sized favorite.
Yeah, dude, it's weird because my stats aren't even correct for his career experience, because my template that I use this template to do all the calculations on these fighters' career stats. It only allowed for 40 pre-UFC fights, only 40. And Ruziboev has more than that. I mean, I think he's got actually like 47 career fights. I don't even have the first 6 fights on his resume that are on SureDog included in my stats because the template isn't big enough. So this guy has got an absurd amount of experience for a guy that's only 30 years old, and he's huge. Dude, he's a legit 6'5". So I don't know how the hell he makes middleweight, but he looks like a well-muscled middleweight at that. He's not just some beanpole that's got no muscle on his frame. And yeah, a ton of submissions, 15 of them, 13 knockouts. And that doesn't even include some of the wins that are missing on his record. And yeah, I mean, he's not doing well in decisions, though. His career, he's 2 wins, 6 losses, and 2 draws in decisions. So, Ruziboev is a guy who needs to finish you early. But like you said, man, we don't know about this guy. He's from Uzbekistan originally. And then he's now training in Philadelphia in the United States, and not fighting every 3 weeks. Now he's like taking a different approach to his career, and he's training with some high-level UFC fighters over there. And he's got unusual size and length for the division, flashes power on the feet. He's got a very aggressive submission game. But I think if he doesn't get Dumas out of there early, Dumas might be live late. He can win minutes with his top control. We've seen him do that in the Brundage fight, in the Highbaugh fight prior to the UFC. But at the same time, I don't really trust either one of these guys right now. But, Ruziboev's a big favorite here. So I get it why there are people that are making bets on Dumas at plus 235. I think Dumas is a dangerous kickboxer. I think that he can win some minutes with his wrestling and grappling on his own too. And we know that Ruziboev, what we've seen thus far from him in a very long pro career, that he's not a big minute winner according to his record in decisions. And these are low-level fighters that he's fighting. So, yeah, man, I think that the longer this fight goes, the more live that Sedriques Dumas is going to be. But I'm not touching this one, man.
Yeah, we'll see. I think Dumas is, like I said, a great guy. I'm sure he's fun to be around and hang out with, but he hasn't shown anything yet in the UFC. But neither has Ruziboev, so it's an interesting fight there. One thing I find interesting, and this under 1.5 is getting smashed, which, I mean, I don't see Dumas finishing anybody at the UFC level. I really don't. The Abu Azaitar, like, not finishing him, unacceptable. Not finishing Brundage, definitely unacceptable. And like you said, if Ruziboev is losing, he's losing by decision. So I think if this fight does go to the decision, it's Dumas winning the decision. And then if it does go under, it's going to be Ruziboev. So I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to attack this fight yet. I do lean Ruziboev yet in this fight because I think on the feet, Ruziboev does have that power. Dumas struggle with the power of Josh Fremd. And then on the mat, I just have a feeling there's going to be just a massive discrepancy in the BJJ. Yeah. I don't think Dumas is a great grappler. So leaning Ruziboev, am I going to bet him at minus 250? No, but maybe I'll look at the round 1 prop, which I'm going to look at now. And yes, it's trash. Plus 110 for Ruziboev by first round finish. At least they're giving us plus money. Like, that's very generous of them. But that's kind of how I'm seeing. I think it's Ruziboev early or Dumas by decision.
We did have the worst line ever a couple of weeks ago. It was Kennedy and Chekwu round 2.
Yes.
It was 235. That's officially the worst line I've ever seen. But yeah, I mean, Ruziboev round 1 is not that far behind it. But, what are they supposed to do? This guy wins all of his fights early. Of course they're not going to give you a great price on that prop. He's clearly a front-loaded fighter.
Yeah. Some of these comments I'm not going to pull up. I don't want to get into any of the legal issues surrounding Dumas, but yeah, let's see here. All right.
We are not legal experts here on Stat Diggers. That is a disclaimer that we have to go more often with. We are not experts in law, so we will not be commenting on that.
Yeah, I don't want to get into the legal stuff with though. I think he's a great guy. That's all I'm saying. I think he's a law-abiding citizen. He's always following, all the laws, which is something you like to see. But yeah, I heard he did half his camp in jail though. I heard that. So that's not good, but we'll see. We'll see. Moving on to the next fight, we have a very weird fight here. We got Chris Weidman going against Bruno Silva. We got Chris Weidman is 39 years. I'm just kidding. He didn't do his camp in jail, Bailey. Come on. But we got Chris Weidman. He's 39 years old, 6'2" with a 78-inch reach. Silva, 34 years old, 6 foot with a 74-inch reach. Silva is going to be 5 years younger with a 2-inch height disadvantage and then a 4-inch reach disadvantage. So looking into this fight, first look, I'm max betting Bruno Silva. Max betting him, what is Chris Weidman doing here? And maybe that still is the case, but the more I looked into it, the more I'm thinking Chris Weidman has a path here, because where Bruno Silva struggles, that's where Chris Weidman's, always been pretty good. And that's the ground game. Bruno Silva is a black belt in BJJ, probably the worst black belt in UFC history. He's been subbed 8 or 9 times. Chris Weidman could potentially get this fight down to the mat and make it look easy. But the problem is Chris Weidman is 39 years old, shouldn't be fighting. He's been knocked out 6-7 times. And the only time he didn't get knocked out was against Brad Tavares. And Brad Tavares could have finished that fight if he pushed any pace whatsoever. And the thing that Chris Weidman struggles with is the chin, and that's what Bruno Silva is very good at. He's very good at knocking guys out. So I don't know. I don't know if I trust Bruno Silva at -300. This is a guy that's looked kind of rough lately. Coming into the UFC, he looked solid. Got that knockout win against Turman, knockout win against Andrew Sanchez. But I think that Alex Pereira loss took a lot out of him. Since that Alex Pereira fight, he looked rough. That Mirror Sharp fight, he looked terrible in that fight. Looked awful. He was able to beat Tavares. He got knocked out by Brennan Allen, then looked awful in the Shara fight as well. I'm picking Silva to win this fight by knockout, but -300, I don't love it, just because if Weidman does get down Silva, it could get bad quickly. Striker versus grappler matchup. Weidman's not going to want to strike with Silva, and Silva's not going to want to go down on the mat with Weidman. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this fight here?
Yeah, I agree with you. There actually is a path for Chris Weidman, but am I going to be the guy betting it? I just don't. It would have to be some kind of a very, very, very small bet, but I don't think that that's going to happen, man. I think he's going to get kicked in the leg a couple of times and maybe look for that door, but he's fighting at home here in, Atlantic City, New Jersey, very close to the New York crew that he's from. He's still got a pulse, but do we want to go laying a bunch of juice on a guy like Bruno Silva, who's definitely pulled stunts before? The GM3 fight was a big time stunt. Now, he said he was sick. He did say he was sick, but that was a terrible performance. And it's not the kind of guy that you can feel comfortable laying juice on, knowing how gifted of a wrestler and submission grappler Chris Weidman is. It's really not a good thing if you get that dude on your back. Bruno Silva's been submitted in all but one of his losses, I believe. So I just think this fight probably finishes inside the distance. It's probably going to be -350, -400 for fight doesn't go, right?
Well, you know what it is. They put it at their -325 they like doing.
Okay, yeah, that sounds about right. That's where it should be. This fight, it would be hard to see it going to decision. Silva's just got too much power, and Weidman's too chinny, and now you also have to worry about his leg holding up. So that's another concern on a potential knockout side for Bruno Silva here. And then, yeah, if Weidman's smart, and I think he is, he's going to take down Bruno. And once he gets him down, he could submit him. So very interesting.
It is. It is. I thought it was a lot more interesting after I looked into it because I was like, early look, I was like, dude, Weidman should not be fighting. And then it's like, if Weidman takes him down, he could potentially sub him. But I'm with you. I'm not touching either of these guys. Retirement fight? No, actually. Weidman said that he's going to fight for a title in the near future. Did he say that, or am I thinking of somebody else?
He said that a couple fights ago, I believe, before the Tavares fight, that
Okay.
he wants to start a title run again. I mean, sometimes these guys are the last to know that you're not winning a title at your age.
And Benina's saying not a lot of happy endings in the sport except for the pleasure man. Yeah, with the pleasure man, there's typically always a happy ending there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he did. He said it. He said it.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Tavares fight. Yep.
All right. So yeah, I don't know what to do here. We got Silva minus 285, Weidman plus 245. The fight doesn't go minus 325. The over under set at 1.5 rounds, and it's about to pick them. Yeah, nothing really sticking out to me yet, but yeah, I think some type of violence could be in play certainly.
Yeah, that could be a nice parlay piece. That fight doesn't go to decision.
Weidman sub plus 575. Silva by knockout. Want to take a guess?
Silva KO minus 150.
Yeah, minus 175 there.
Wow.
Then, yeah, Silva round one's plus 110 as well. So they're thinking Silva round one knockout, and that's actually what I'm picking. But not much juice there. Bye, Chris. Yeah, this could be the last time we see him. Could be the last time. And come on, he's not gonna look like Jan Vellante. Remember that Vellante fight? I think he fought Chris Barnett where he showed up to the weigh-ins drunk. Do you remember that?
He looked like, even Cormier was like, he looked like he just got out of bed. And he was so fat too, because he used to fight at 205, and he, former football player, great athlete, but he got old and he stopped. He's like, I'm not cutting weight anymore. And he came in that last one looking bad.
It was terrible. It was terrible. All right. Let's keep moving on. We have a couple more fights here. We have 2 fights left. We got Vicente Luque going against Joaquin Buckley. We got Luque, 32 years old, 5'11" with a 76-inch reach. Buckley, 29 years old, 5'10" with a 76-inch reach. Buckley, 3 years younger. Luque with a 1-inch height advantage and same reach there. Luque, he is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Submission win against Tyron Woodley. Submission win against Michael Chiesa. Decision loss to Bilal Muhammad. Knockout loss to Jeff Neal. And then a decision win against RDA. As far as Buckley, 3-2 in his last 5 fights. A knockout win against Albert Duraev. Decision loss to Nasruddin Imavov. Knockout loss against Chris Curtis. Knockout win against Andre Fiallo, and then a decision win against Alex Morono. And this is a very, very interesting fight here. And my first thought, when looking into this fight was, I think Luque, like a prime version of Luque, destroys Buckley. I think he knocks him out and maybe even club and subs him. I don't think it's close, but I'm really worried about Luque. I don't think we're getting prime Luque in this fight whatsoever. This is a guy in Luque who he's only 32 years old, but he has taken just so much damage throughout his career. When you think of Luque, you think of an absolute war because the majority of his fights are wars. He's eating a lot of punches. He's taken a lot of damage. And Luque is one of those guys who I thought would never get knocked out. And we talked about it even before the Neal fight. I'm like, maybe the Luque finish only could be interesting. Because how can you imagine this guy getting knocked out after seeing him take so many shots? But it finally happened, and it was bad. It was a bad, brutal loss against Jeff Neal, and I think that took a lot out of him. That was the fight where he got that brain bleed, which is not good. And I thought we probably shouldn't see him fight for a long time. And he came back against RDA, beat RDA, and then after the fight, something that really stuck with me was Vicente Luque said something along the lines of he was afraid to get hit. Like I would never thought I would hear Luque say something like that. So I'm curious to see how he approaches this fight. Are we going to get the version of Luque that's going to go out there and stand and bang? Or are we going to get the version of Luque like he did in his last fight where he tried to take down RDA a million times and had success, but RDA is a very small welterweight and Buckley's not. So I don't know. I feel like it's dog or pass, which I feel like everybody's thinking the same thing because this line is Buckley's barely even a dog. He's not a dog anymore. Just refresh. Buckley's not a dog anymore. It's about to pick him right now. Luque minus 115, Buckley minus 105. I think I'm leaning Buckley, but I obviously missed the line quite a bit. And I think you're muted.
Joel S just said in the chat, Luque gonna wrestle, and I think he is. I think he's gonna wrestle.
Can try,
It looked
yeah.
like he was afraid of getting hit in his return fight from the brain hemorrhage. And why wouldn't he? You know, who wants to get hit after you've had a brain hemorrhage? It doesn't make much sense. And he just did not look to be comfortable in the distance striking exchanges, which is the opposite of what Vicente Luque was in every single fight after, before the Neal knockout. So I don't know, man. I don't think that this is the Vicente Luque that we saw back in the day, because he got hit so much. Even in the fights that he won, he would come from behind a lot of the time. So, this is a guy who's got a lot of miles on the engine, Brady, and you're talking about 32 professional fights, 20 of them in the UFC, over 200 minutes of UFC cage time, 300 minutes of total cage time over his long career. So he's got 11 knockouts. He's got 8 submissions. He's always been a finisher, but he's not the best minute winner. 3 wins, 6 losses, and a draw to the decision. And now, if Vicente Luque all of a sudden is going to try to shift his style to being a minute winning style, well, I think it'll be great for his career that he'll take less damage, and he'll probably have a lot better life quality when he gets older after he retires. But I don't know if that's how he's going to. I don't know. Does Luque have the kind of skill set that's necessary to win minutes when you're that hittable at distance? I mean, is this guy going to turn into Habib all of a sudden?
He's going to maybe try to be Habib.
He might. I mean, he definitely tried to out wrestle Dos Anjos the last time out, and yeah. So I'm worried about it. I mean, like, that was a very, very serious knockout and serious brain injury that he suffered as a result of that knockout, and he might never be the same fighter. So, and it's not like Vicente's getting any younger. I mean, he's always been young in the game. He's 32 years old, but 309 minutes, dude, Brady. That's 5 hours of his life that he's spent in a cage, and he's absorbed over 1,000 significant strikes just in the UFC. Over 1,000. Think about that, man. So that's a lot of damage that he's taken. And when seeing the complete shift in his fighting style between the Neal fight and Dos Anjos fight is enough to keep me off of him and say that Luque probably absorbs the bigger shots in this fight and probably loses.
Yeah. I think I'm just going to sit back and watch this one. So Luque opened up -160, is now -115. Buckley opened up +140, is currently -105. Buckley seems to be the most popular dog on the card. I think it's between him and maybe McKee. But yeah, a lot of people on that Buckley plus money, and it is all dried up because I see no plus money on Buckley no more. And it's weird, like I said, I think if we were getting like the best version of Luque, I would be betting him here. It's just I don't think that version exists, so I think I'm just going to stay away. The total's kind of interesting because the over/under set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 is +132. The under 2.5 is -162. Obviously, Luque could finish Buckley, but I guess the question is, could Buckley finish Luque at this point?
Yeah, and does he finish him, Brady, if Luque shoots 12 takedowns and gets 4 minutes of clinch control time and 3 minutes of ground control time? Chances are no.
Yeah.
So that could be a sneaky over, because you're looking at the stats of Vicente Luque, who's got like over 80% finish rate as a pro, and was coming off being knocked out badly 2 fights ago. And you say, oh, wow, yeah, -162, under 2.5, that makes sense. You would expect to pay some juice on a violence bet in any Luque fight, but he's fighting differently now. He's fighting a different style. He doesn't want to absorb all that punishment. And if he fights smart here, he might just grind on this dude, and that might just safely go over 2.5 rounds, and you'd be getting plus money for betting it.
Yeah, could be a sneaky over. Could look sweat free, or could look like the worst bet ever. I think it can go one of 2 ways. It could look sweat free, or Luque is going to go in there and bite down on the mouthpiece, and it ends very poorly. We'll see there. But yeah, I think I'm just going to sit back and watch this co-main event. All right, Weezy. Now we have the main event, Blanchfield Fiorot. Before we get into it, guys, if you guys have not already, smash the like button, subscribe here to Pub Sports Radio. We'll be back next week for the UFC. I think it's UFC Vegas 90.
90.
And then after that, we have UFC 300, which I'm really looking forward to as well. So make sure you subscribe to not miss out on that. But yeah, we got Erin Blanchfield going against Manon Fiorot here. We have a fight whoever wins this fight is going to fight for a title. So I'm really excited about that. We got Blanchfield, 24 years old, 5'4" with a 66-inch reach. Fiorot, 34 years old, 5'7" with a 65-inch reach. Blanchfield, 10 years younger. Manon Fiorot with a 3-inch height advantage and a 1-inch reach disadvantage. We got Blanchfield, 5-0 her last 5 fights. Decision win against Miranda Maverick. Submission wins against J.J. Aldrich, Molly McCann, and Jessica Andrade. And then a decision win against Tyler Santos her last time out. Manon Fiorot, 5-0 her last 5 fights as well. Knockout win against Tabitha Ricci. And then decision wins against Bueno Silva, Jennifer Maia, Caitlin Chukagian, and then Rose Namajunas. And yeah, this fight, I'm looking forward to. I like this fight, but what I don't like is I have to pick against one of these fighters because I'm very high on both fighters here. You know, Blanchfield, I love her style. She has that dog in her. She's going to come forward the entire time, do everything in her power to get the fight down to the mat. And she's a very good grappler, black belt in BJJ, great cardio, great toughness. Manon Fiorot is a very good striker. I love the striking from Fiorot. Very good takedown defense, sneaky offensive wrestling in her own right, good jiu-jitsu in her own right. But yeah, I think we have a matchup where Blanchfield's going to try to get this fight down to the mat. Manon Fiorot is going to try to stop that. And on the feet, I think Fiorot is going to have the advantage, but it's a very interesting fight. I think this fight's close. You know, nobody seems to agree with that because this money line's kind of getting blown out, but I'm kind of struggling, you know, breaking this one down. The fight opened up a pick'em. I kind of lean more towards a pick'em here because I think on the feet, Fiorot will have the advantage. But if Blanchfield gets this fight down to the mat, obviously she can win minutes down there. So Weezy, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal fight to finish the card. Nice, France, stand up. The fighting pride of Nice, France will be in the octagon looking to take that next step towards the belt here against Erin Blanchfield, who is going to be the hometown fighter. She is a Jersey girl, and she is fighting in Jersey. So Erin Blanchfield is in a great spot to really open a bunch of eyes. She's going to have that crowd behind her here at home. And the thing I love the most about Erin is the pressure that she's bringing on the feet. You know, if you're a grappler, it's fine to have a grappling advantage, but you got to find your way in. And the way that you do that is you close the distance, you pressure your opponent, you get them on their back foot, and you use your striking to set up your takedown entries. And if you can get those takedown entries, that's when you're going to look really good. But Manon is phenomenal at using that lateral movement and that footwork to keep her distance and deal with pressure. And she's a very long striker, and she is powerful. She hasn't really flashed too much of the power up here yet at the UFC level, but it's clear that it's there. And we've seen it on the regional scene for sure. And somebody like Erin that pressures forward as relentlessly and recklessly as she does, she's going to walk on to some big shots from Manon here. And Manon also has phenomenal takedown defense and a very good get-up game as well. And it's been part of her MMA attack ever since her very first professional fight against Leah McCourt, where she took that fight at 142 pounds, I think. It was a catchweight fight that was almost at featherweight. And 3-round fight, Leah selling out for the takedown in all 3 rounds, getting takedowns, but Manon always got back to her feet and landed the much bigger shots on the feet. That's Manon's only loss as a professional, was in that fight. So, you know, you have to go all the way back then, but it was still somebody much bigger than Erin Blanchfield is. So I think, you know, obviously if Erin's not getting takedowns here, she's going to be getting pieced up on the feet. But the pressure and the style with which Erin fights leads me to believe that she's absolutely got a chance to win this fight because of the way that she fights, because she's going to be coming forward and because she's not afraid to do that. She's going to have 5 rounds, Brady, with which to find that takedown, get to that dominant position, and then either win the round dominantly or finish the fight.
Yeah, it's a tricky fight, man. Like, I think people are like really overrating like the wrestling of Blanchfield. Her grappling's phenomenal, but the wrestling hasn't been that great. Like she went 0 for 14 on takedowns against Santos, 0 for 4 against JJ Aldrich. She's going to attempt a ton of takedowns, and maybe she does get them, but I don't know. It's an interesting fight. I feel like I feel like as this fight goes on, it does favor her though. I feel like that pressure might be able to get to Fiorot, and maybe she's able to get Fiorot down later in the fight. I don't know. But yeah, I don't agree with this line movement. Blanchfield opened up -110. She's currently -185. Fiora opened up -110. She's currently +160. I don't want to pick against either of these fighters. I don't want to bet against either of these fighters, but it's a dog or pass for me. But it's one I'm probably just gonna be watching. Rooting for both fighters here. And the fight goes -105. The fight doesn't go -125. I don't think Manon's finishing Blanchfield, but I do think that if Blanchfield gets this fight down to the mat late, she could be live for a late finish there. Any thoughts on the total? Looks like the over 4.5 is -135.
Man, I think if you told me I didn't have to worry about the line, just if it's like a 50-50 thing, I would say, I got a feeling that Manon could get a knockout here in a 5-round fight because so many of Manon's opponents in the past, Brady, they don't pressure her. They don't want to pressure her. She's too precise with her striking, and she's too powerful, and she's huge for the division. So the great kicks, she's able to maintain distance with them. And she does have power you can absolutely walk on to big shots from her. And I could see Erin walking into big shots over and over and over again because that's what she does really at range. She's not a great striker yet. She's not huge for the division. So she absorbs over 7 distance strikes per minute, and Manon lands over 6, but she only absorbs 3.5. So you see Manon with this positive 2.67 distance striking differential, while for Erin, it's positive 0.92. So, you just see a little bit more efficiency, especially with the defense on the Fiorot side. But Blanchfield, 55% control time for in her UFC career. So if she winds up getting this fight to the ground, getting control time, she's going to get to dominant positions and land really big ground and pound and have a potential to finish with a submission. And it's in Atlantic City. The crowd's going to be going nuts for Erin Blanchfield. So that's got to be something you got to take into your capping account. If this fight goes the full 5, Manon better be landing big shots, because if she's not, that crowd is going to be screaming every time Erin even looks close to like she's doing something good.
Yeah, 100%. Let's see here. Blanche will need a sub here. She's getting pieced up. Manon has strong hips. Yeah, very strong hips. I think her takedown defense is pretty good. But if Blanchfield does get her down, I think it could be definitely bad. Dogger pass is kind of where I'm leaning as well, more towards the pass though. We'll see where this line goes though. I wasn't expecting this much money to come in on Blanchfield, to be honest. She was all the way down to -205 at one point, but she's back to -185. Let's see. Blanchfield by sub is +225. Manon knockout is +400. Yeah, nothing really sticking out to me. How about you? Any props you liking or nothing as well?
I'm such big fans of both of these ladies that it's hard to bet against. Like you said, it's hard to bet against Erin Blanchfield, and it's really hard to bet against Manon Fiorot at this point in both of their careers. So, yeah, I feel like I want more on Blanchfield sub. I want +400 on that. I want +600 on Manon KO, because I just don't think that they're going to finish each other, but I think that they're both absolutely live for a finish the way that this fight shapes up. The fact that it's 5 rounds, the fact that it's a big live crowd there, but that big cage, Brady, where Manon's going to have more room to move laterally and deal with that forward pressure of Erin Blanchfield. And she's a sniper on the feet. She's good. It's a very close fight. I agree a lot more with -115 apiece than I do -185 for Blanchfield.
Yep. Same. I think it's a close fight. All right, Weezy, we did it. We went through all 14 fights. Any final thoughts on the card overall?
Great matchmaking, a lot of really fun fights, and even the lower level fights like Bazookia and Matthews and Pleasure Man versus Aslan and Dumas versus Ruziboev. They're fun. They're going to be fun fights. So I think it's going to be a great card to watch. I always say, Brady, and you agree, that We love it when the UFC tries.
Yeah.
And when they have to show up and entertain a live crowd that's not 20 people at the Apex, they have to try. And this is them trying, and I'm here for it, man. I think it's going to be a fantastic card.
Yep, they tried, and that's all we could ask for. But Weezy, let people know what you got going on for the week. We're gonna have Lou Betcha replace you, let you enjoy your vacation for the DFS show, and then you're doing like a adjust a tip maybe Tuesday.
Yeah, maybe we'll see what's going on here. I will be in touch with my people on Patreon and on Twitter and let them know what's up for this week. But I do want to do a full card breakdown, but it's just not going to be nearly as in depth as what you're used to getting from me here. I am on vacation and I intend to enjoy this beautiful country, France here, and then Italy next week for a wedding. This is really going to be a great time, and frankly, I'm going to be looking to enjoy myself here while I'm on vacation a lot more than I'm going to be looking to break down these fights, because we just did a great job of it here today on Pub Sports Radio. And yeah, the DFS show, Brady, that would have been at like 3 or 4 a.m. here. So thank you, Lou Betcha, for filling in for me on that one. Yeah, but I will do a full card breakdown at some point here when I have a free hour or two for you guys, and come to you live from France and let you know who the ass shaving of the week is going to be this week. And we can find some spots to stack cash tickets like flapjacks and enjoy UFC Atlantic City.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, thanks for coming on. For 2 hours while on vacation, that is some dedication there. All right, guys. If you guys can like on the way out, subscribe. Check out my full card breakdown. It's already out, and then I'll be getting the regular content out as well. Friday live stream, and then the best bet live stream also. Best of luck, everybody, and we'll talk to you soon. See you later.